I'm sure Kitty Cat will be here any minute. Hello, world. Hello. Hello. That's just going to have to wait till this weekend. You know how it is, right? I hope everybody's having a nice spring. Tomorrow is the first day of spring. So happy spring, everybody. Um, yeah, we're just kind of hanging out, waiting for Kitty Cat to get here. And then she's going to read to us with her wonderful, beautiful voice from the wonderful, less than beautiful, unfortunately, story of how patriarchy shaped the world. Yay. Ah, academia. Oh, I had somebody and then they left. Was it because they mentioned patriarchy? It is a bummer. It is. I understand. However, um, we got to face it. It's true. It's true. And that's why we're here. And I really hope, come on, kitty cat. Come on, friend. Come on. Oh, come on over here and talk to the people with me. Not that there's anybody here yet, but hopefully, you know, we'll get a couple of our regulars, I'm sure. Um, is there, I hope it's actually live. That did not occur to me last time. I hope the chat is actually live, instead of doing that thing where it just wants to show me the highlight chats for some reason as the default. Like how the default. You have to opt in to monetizing your videos. I don't know if everybody knows that. And I'm just kind of sitting here babbling. And trying to get into the vibe of this, because I have been doing a lot of writing and a lot of job hunting, and that is where my mind is, unfortunately. But I'm sure y'all would like to hear about the writing, maybe. I don't know. I have got actually almost to the end of part one of book one. Part one of book one. Oh my goodness. There's no three involved there. I don't know what I'm saying. Hi, Alfalfa. Hey, somebody whose name starts with J. What up? Hashim and Ronaldo? Okay. Some new folks. Hey, hey. What's up? I really hope the kitty cat gets here soon. Open. Okay. Um, my goodness. Yes, yes, she's here. All right. Our guest of honor has arrived. Hooray. Yes, hello, hooray, hello.
Hello, sorry for the wait. I was trying to get the light to work and it was just being difficult. Yes, I know, imagine that. Lucky.
Now I'm so. Uh-oh, we have a message held for review. Hello, please open t-shirts. No one's wearing a t-shirt. What am I doing? We are reading from Caliban and the Witch today. We have a whole bunch of people here, actually. There are 12
Really?
people in
Wow.
here right now, it says. Yeah.
Oh, great. Make me feel nervous now before I start reading.
Oh, I'm sorry. You will do fine.
I'm just bugging you.
I have no doubt. Yeah, I hadn't even occurred to me because I have no doubt you're going to do fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of different words, like there's a lot of groups and sects we're going to get into, and I'm just like, how do you pronounce this?
Oh, God.
Right? Because it's different when you're reading in your head, but having to read out loud, you're like, well, I don't know what the blah, 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 blah is. Who are they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll state this right now off the bat, if I get certain names wrong, especially if they're in like a different language, I'm sorry, I don't know Italian or French and stuff. So
well,
yeah.
And I've been kind of summarizing this book as like how patriarchy shaped the modern world. Would you say that that's accurate? I mean, I don't want to be going around and talking smack, you
I
know?
think it's Caliban the Witch basically really showcases how we got here. I think, yeah, like
Right. Yeah.
where it started, at least in our kind of social civilization, how it started with feudalism, then into capitalism and into where we are at the present day, I guess. There is
Right.
another, I forget the name of it, but there is another continuation to this. It's not as good. It's very short,
Mm.
but it's kind of like showcasing certain similarities in present day to the witch
Mm.
burnings back in the um, medieval times and medieval periods. So, but it is worth noting
Yikes.
because, like, she goes on talks about different situations happening around the world, especially places like Africa, because she used to live there, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And I mean, I don't know, depending on how the next few years go, we may not have to go so far afield to find direct comparisons.
yeah. Mm. It's been crazy out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it has.
Yeah, it's depressing. We're just like, yeah, here.
Know so much more about it than I do.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I know. Well, I mean, like I don't know if I mentioned it before. That's where I started, was being anti-imperial, so anti-war, right?
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
that foreign policy is my bread and butter. That's what I've like kind of started with. It's just that what stems from that is a class analysis of feminism as well as racism, all of that, right?
Yeah, because you have
Environmental
to look at those
things.
things to make any sense of it,
Yeah, we have to,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just all in one vacuum. It's like
Yeah.
contextually together and makes a whole.
Oh, hey, Red. So, yeah, and I have actually made some progress on my novel this week, so I've not been following the
Oh,
news as
good. I'm
much as.
glad. So
Huh?
no, I'm happy. I'm glad to see people being
Oh,
productive.
thanks.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm today pretty exhausted. I'll just quickly let you know what happened yesterday. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be going camping, right, in the summer. And so me, my mother, and my kid went to look at sort of like where we want to go. So we drove out there, but we got told wrong directions. And instead of going to, turning to the right lane, we just kept going straight because the guy said to just keep going straight. Well, because it's the boonies, it's hard to tell the difference. There's no signs. And we actually started going up a logging a road up a damn mountain. And it got so bad, there was snow.
Oh my.
There was sinkholes in the road.
Oh my.
It was an adventure. So we were there. It took us around 7 hours to get back, like to come back down, get back home. Oh man! But we did find the place when we decided to turn around. Find a spot, anyways, to turn around to go back down the mountain. And
Yeah.
yeah, I could have killed that guy.
Wow.
I'm like, why would you say that? You gave us. It was not hard, like directions to follow, because it was right there. There was a fork in the road. We went to one of the boony houses because there's nothing there but like a few scattered houses, and the guy
Uh-huh.
was outside burning brush, and he said, "Just go straight through. Do not turn." I specifically asked, "Do we turn?" So we don't do that. We just go straight up. Yep. I swear to God, I'm like, you trying to get
Ah,
us lost? I'm like, what a dick move.
maybe. Maybe, some
I got
people.
to start thinking, because that was pretty obviously not where to go. Oh yeah, so we had an
Wow.
adventure. So I'm super tired because we got back home
Oh,
like fairly late.
I
Like
am
I
so
probably should have told
sorry.
everybody before I had to get up early.
Thank you for, gracing us with your wonderful presence.
Oh no, that's all good. I just thought that was funny because like but at the time it was kind of stressful. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, this obviously is not the area, but why did he say go up this way? Anyways,
Right.
coming back down though and being fine because my mom's in a like a granny car, like a Toyota, like Corolla or whatever. Like, it's not
Oh,
made for trekking. So
okay.
it
Yeah.
was a shit
Wow.
show. So yeah, an adventure is always fun.
And all's well that ends well, right?
Right. Well, that's exactly. Now I can laugh about it now. It's not as stressful because I'm okay. We're not
Right.
stuck up there with a flat tire or something overnight
Ex-
in the snow
Oh,
in the
oh,
car
no,
with
no,
no
no,
one
no,
knowing
no.
where we are
Right. Oh, no, 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 no. That's how bad things happen.
with
Yeah.
cougars and bears. Oh my! Waking up from spring.
Yeah, no. Asking directions doesn't help, Red says, if the other person is lost too.
Yeah, oh, man. So that was my adventure time.
Wow.
So I'm a little bit, yeah, just a little tired today, but that's okay. I'm excited. I've got
Yeah.
my presentation slides. We got something to look at, and
Awesome.
yeah,
And if you
we're
send
going
me
to be
that after we're
doing
done, I'll
this.
make it the thumbnail again.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be doing the first chapter. We're still on the first chapter with All the World Needs
Ah.
a Jolt, part 2, and the millenarian and heretic. See, I can't even speak. Heretic movements, the
Mm.
polarization of sexuality, and women and heresy. So those are the sections we'll be covering today. So
Sounds good.
let's
I got
go.
my notebook here if I want to ask questions for later, and I'll mute myself while you're talking. Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to point out that I am going to be using a mic, but for some reason I can't hear the opposite side when I put the mic in. So
Right.
we won't be talking throughout the reading. We will reserve for that afterwards. Essentially.
So I encourage anybody else who wants to, make a little note of anything you want to ask about or comments you want to make later on, and I will read the comments out later too. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to fix this a bit. We're going to get started with there we go. That's right. I'm just going to plug myself in now. Here we go. All right. So the millenarian and the heretic movements. It was the growing landless proletariat which emerged in the wake of commutation that the protagonist in the 12th and 13th centuries of the millenarian movements, in which we find, beside impoverished peasants, all the wretched of feudal society, prostitutes, defrocked priests, urban and rural day laborers. The traces of the millenarians' brief apparition on the historical scene are scanty, and they tell us a story of short-lived revolts and of a peasantry brutalized by poverty and by the clergy's inflammatory that accompanied the launching of the Crusades. The significance of the rebellion, however, is that it inaugurated a new type of struggle already projected beyond the confines of the manor and stimulated by aspirations to total change. Not surprisingly, the rise of millenarianism was accompanied by the spread of prophecies and apocalyptic visions announcing the end of the world and the imminence of the Last Judgment, not as visions of a more or less distant future to be awaited, but as impending events in which many now living could take active part. A typical example of millenarianism was the movement sparked by the appearance of the pseudo-Baldwin in Flanders in 1224 to 25. The man, a hermit, had claimed to be the popular Baldwin IX, who had been killed in Constantinople in 1204. This could not be proven, but his promise of a new world provoked a civil war in which the Flemish textile workers became his most ardent supporters. These poor people, weavers and fullers, closed ranks around him, presumably convinced that he was going to give them silver and gold and full social reform. Similar to this movement were those of the pastouriers, or shepherds, peasants and urban workers who swept through northern France around 1251, burning and pillaging the houses of the rich, demanding a betterment of their condition. And the movement of the flagellants that, starting from Umbria, or Italy, spread in several countries in 1260, the date when, according to the prophecy of the Abbé Jacques de Flora, the world was supposed to end. It was not the millenarian movement, however, but popular heresy that best expressed the search by the medieval proletariat for a concrete alternative to feudal relations and its resistance to the growing money economy. Heresy and millenarianism are often treated as one subject, but While a precise distinction cannot be drawn, there are significant differences between the two movements. The millenarian movements were spontaneous, without an organizational structure or program. Usually a specific event or a charismatic individual spurred them on. But as soon as they were met by force, they collapsed. By contrast, the heretic movement was a conscious attempt to create a new society. The main heretical sects had a social program that also reinterpreted the religious tradition, and they were well organized from the viewpoint of their reproduction, the dissemination of their ideas, and even their self-defense. Not surprisingly, they had a long duration, despite the extreme persecution to which they were subjected, and they played a crucial role in the anti-feudal struggle. Today, little is known about the many heretic sects, the Cathars, Waldenses, the Poor of Leon, Spirituals, Apostolics, that for more than 3 centuries flourished among the lower classes in Italy, France, the Flanders, and Germany, in what undoubtedly was the most important opposition movement of the Middle Ages. This is largely due to the ferocity with which they were persecuted by the Church, which spared no effort to erase a trace of their doctrines. Crusades, like the one moved against the Albigensians, were called against the heretics, as they were called to liberate the Holy Land from the infidels. By the thousands, heretics were burned at the stake, and to eradicate their presence, the Pope created one of the most perverse institutions ever recorded in the history of state repression, the Holy Inquisition. Nevertheless, as Charles H. Lee, among others, has shown in his monumental history of the persecution of heresy, even on the basis of the limited records available to us, we can form an impressive picture of their activities and creeds, and the role of heretical resistance in the anti-feudal struggle. Although influenced by Eastern religions brought to Europe by merchants and crusaders, popular heresy was less a deviation from the orthodox doctrine than a protest movement, aspiring to a radical democratization of social life. Heresy was the equivalent of liberation theology for the medieval proletariat. It gave a frame to people's demands for spiritual renewal and social justice, challenging both the church and secular authority by appeal to a higher truth. It denounced social hierarchies, private property, and the accumulation of wealth, and it disseminated among the people a new, revolutionary conception of society that, for the first time in the Middle Ages, redefined every aspect of daily life. Work, property, sexual reproduction, and the position of women, posing the question of emancipation in truly universal terms. The heretic movement also provided an alternative community structure that had an international dimension, enabling the members of the sects to lead a more autonomous life and to benefit from a wide support network made of contacts, schools, and safe houses upon which they could rely for help and inspiration in times of need. Indeed, it is no exaggeration to say that the heretic movement was the first proletarian international. Such was the reach of the sects, particularly the Cathars and the Waldenses, and the links they established among themselves with the help of commercial fairs, pilgrimages, and the constant border crossing of refugees generated by their persecution. At the root of popular heresy was the belief that God no longer spoke through the clergy because of its greed, corruption, and scandalous behavior. Thus, the two major sects presented themselves as the true churches. However, the heretics' challenge was primarily a political one, since to challenge the church was to confront, at once, the ideological pillar of feudal power, the biggest landowner in Europe, and of the institutions most responsible for the daily exploitation of the peasantry. By the 11th century, the church had become a despotic power that used its alleged divine investiture to govern with an iron fist and fill its coffers by endless means of extortion, selling absolutions, indulgences, and religious offices, calling the faithful to church only to preach to them the sanctity of the tithes, and making of all sacraments a market were common practices from the Pope to the village priest. So much so that the corruption of the clergy became proverbial throughout Christianity. Things degenerated to the point that the clergy would not bury the dead, baptize, or grant absolution from sin unless it received some compensation. Even the communion became an occasion for bargain, and if an unjust demand was resisted, the recalcitrant was excommunicated and then had to pay for reconciliation in addition to the original sum. In this context, the propagation of the heretical doctrines not only channeled the contempt that the people felt for the clergy, it gave them confidence in their views and instigated the resistance to clerical exploitation. Taking the lead from the New Testament, the heretics taught that Christ had no property, and that if the church wanted to regain its spiritual power, it should divest itself from all of its possessions. They also taught that the sacraments were not valid when administered by sinful priests, that the exterior forms of worship, buildings, images, symbols, should be discarded because only inner belief mattered. They also exhorted people not to pay the tithes and denied the existence of purgatory, whose invention had been for the clergy a source of lucre through paid masses and the sales of indulgences. In turn, the church used the charge of heresy to attack every form of social and political insubordination. In 1377, when the cloth workers in Flanders took arms against their employers, they were not only hanged as rebels but were burned by the Inquisition as heretics. There are also records of female weavers being threatened with excommunication for not having delivered promptly the product of their work, and to the merchants or not having properly done their work. In 1234, to punish his peasant tenants who refused to pay their tithes, the Bishop of Bremen called a crusade against them, as though they were heretics. But heretics were persecuted also by the secular authorities, from the emperor to the urban patricians, who realized that the heretic appeal to the true religion had subversive implications and questioned the foundations of their power. Heresy was as much critique of social hierarchies and economic exploitation as it was a denunciation of clerical corruption. As Gioacchino Volpe points out, the rejection of all forms of authority and a strong anti-commercial sentiment were common elements among the sects. Many heretics shared the ideal of apostolic poverty and their desire to return to the simple communal life that had characterized the primitive church. Some, like the poor of Leon and the brethren of the Free Spirit, lived on donated alms. Others supported themselves by manual labor. Still, others experimented with communism, like the early Taborites in Bohemia, for whom the establishment of equality and communal ownership were as important as religious reform. Of the Waldenses, too, an inquisitor reported that, quote, they avoid all forms of commerce to avoid lies, frauds, and oaths, and he described them as a walking barefoot clad in woolen garments, owning nothing, and, like apostles, holding all things in common. The social content of heresy, however, is best expressed in the words of John Ball, the intellectual leader of the English peasant rising of 1381, who denounced that, quote, we are made in the image of God, but we are treated like beasts, and then added, nothing will go well in England as long as there will be gentlemen and villains. The most influential among the heretical sects, the Cathars, also stand out as unique in the history of European social movements because of their abhorrence for war, including the Crusades, their condemnation of capital punishment, which provoked the Church's first explicit pronouncement in support of the death penalty, and their tolerance for other religions. Southern France, their stronghold before the crusade against the Albigensians, was a safe haven for Jews when anti-Semitism in Europe was mounting. Here, a fusion of Cathars and Jewish thought produced the Kabbalah, the tradition of Jewish mysticism. Cathars also rejected marriage and procreation and were strict vegetarians, both because they refused to kill animals and because they wished to avoid any food, like eggs and meats, resulting from sexual generation. This negative attitude towards natality has been attributed to the influence exerted on the Cathars by Eastern dualist sects like the Paulicians, a sect of iconoclastic who rejected procreation as the act by which the soul is entrapped in the material world. And above all, the Bogomils, who proselytized in the 10th century among the peasantry of the Balkans, a popular movement born amidst peasants who physical misery made conscious of the wickedness of things. The Bogomils preached that the visible world is the work of the devil, for in the world of God, the good would be the first, and they refused to have children, not to bring new slaves into this land of tribulations, as life on earth was called in one of their tracts. The influence of the Bogomils on the Cathars is well established, and it is likely that the Cathars' avoidance of marriage and procreation stemmed from a similar refusal of a life degraded to mere survival, rather than from a death wish or from contempt for life. This is suggested by the fact that Cathars' antinatalism was not associated with a degraded conception of women and sexuality, as it is often the case with philosophies that despise life and the body. Women had an important place in the sex. As for the Cathars' attitude towards sexuality, it seems that while the prefected abstained from intercourse, the other members were not expected to practice sexual abstinence, and some scorned the importance which the church assigned to chastity, arguing that it implied an overvaluation of the body. Some heretics attributed to a mystical value to the sexual act, even treating it like a sacrament, and preached that practicing sex rather than abstaining from it was the best means to achieve a state of innocence. Thus, ironically, heretics were persecuted both as extreme ascetics and as libertines. The sexual creeds of the Cathars were obviously a sophisticated elaboration of themes developed through the encounter with Eastern heretical religions. But the popularity they enjoyed and the influence they exercised on other heresies also speak of a wider experimental reality rooted in the conditions of marriage and reproduction in the Middle Ages. We know that in medieval society, due to the limited availability of land and the protectionist restrictions which the guilds placed on entrance into the crafts, neither for the peasants nor for their artisans was it possible or desirable to have many children. And indeed, efforts were made by peasant and artisan communities to control the number of children born among them. The most common method used to achieve this goal was the postponement of marriage, an event that, even among Orthodox Christians, came at a late age, if at all. The rule being no land, no marriage. A large number of young people, therefore, had to practice sexual abstinence or defy the church's ban on sex outside of wedlock, and we can imagine that the heretical rejection of procreation must have found some resonance among them. In other words, it is conceivable that in the sexual and reproductive codes of the heretics we may actually see the traces of a medieval attempt at birth control. This would explain why, when population growth became a major social concern at a time of severe demographic crisis and labor shortage in the late 14th century, heresy became associated with reproductive crimes, especially sodomy, infanticide, and abortion. This is not to suggest that the heretics' reproductive doctrines had a decisive demographic impact, but rather that for at least 2 centuries, a political climate was created in Italy, France, and Germany, whereby any form of contraception, including sodomy, came to be associated with heresy, at which the sexual doctrines of the heretics posed for the orthodoxy must also be viewed in the context of the efforts which the church made to establish its control over marriage and sexuality, which enabled it to place everyone, from the emperor to the poorest peasant, under its scrutiny and disciplinary rule. All right, so moving on to the second section, the politicalization of sexuality. And we're just gonna, oh, come on. All right. As Mary Condren has pointed out in The Serpent and the Goddess, published in 1989, a study of the penetration of Christianity into Celtic Ireland, the Church's attempt to regulate sexual behavior had a long history in Europe. From a very early period after Christianity became a state religion in the 4th century, the clergy recognized the power that sexual desire gave women over men and persistently tried to exercise it by identifying holiness with avoidance of women and sex. Expelling women from any movement of the liturgy and from the administration of the sacraments, trying to usurp women's life-giving magical powers by adopting a feminine dress and making sexuality an object of shame. All these were the means by which a patriarchal caste tried to break the power of women and erotic attraction. In this process, sexuality was invested with a new significance. It became a subject for confession, where the minutest details of one's most intimate bodily functions became a topic for discussion, and where the different aspects of sex were split apart into thought, word, intention, involuntary urges, and actual deeds of sex to form a science of sexuality. A privileged site for the reconstruction of the Church's sexual canons are the Provincials, the handbooks that, starting from the 7th century, were issued as practical guides for the confessors. In the first volume of his History of Sexuality in 1978, Foucault stresses the role that these handbooks played in the production of sex as discourse and of a more polymorphous conception of sexuality in the 17th century. But the Provincials were already instrumental to the production of a new sexual discourse in the Middle Ages. These works demonstrate that the Church attempted to impose a true sexual catechism, minutely prescribing the positions permitted during intercourse. Actually, only one was allowed, the days on which sex could be practiced, with whom it was permissible, and with whom forbidden. This sexual supervision escalated in the 12th century when the Lateran councils of 1123 and 1139 launched a new crusade against the common practice of clerical marriage and concubination, and declared marriage a sacrament whose vows no power on earth could dissolve. At this time, the limitations imposed by the Provincials on the sexual act were also reiterated. Then, 40 years later, with the Lateran Council of 1179, the Church intensified its attack on sodomy, targeting at once gay people and non-procreative sex. And for the first time, it condemned homosexuality, the continence which is against nature. With the adoption of this repressive legislation, sexuality was completely politicized. We do not have yet the morbid obsession with which the Catholic Church later approached sexual matters. But already by the 12th century, we see the Church not only peeping into the bedroom of its flock, but making of sexuality a state matter. The unorthodox sexual choices of the heretics must also be seen then as an anti-authoritarian stand, an attempt the heretics made to wrench the bodies from the grip of the clergy. A clear example of this anti-clerical rebellion was the rise in the 13th century of a new pantheist sects, like the Amalricarians and the Brethren of the Free Spirit, who, against the Church's effort to control sexual behavior, preached that God is in all of us, and consequently that it is impossible for us to sin. And the third section, we have women and heresy. One of the most significant aspects of the heretic movement is the high status assigned to women. As Gioacchino Volpe put it, in the Church, women were nothing, but here they were considered equal. They had the same rights as men and could enjoy a social life and mobility, wandering or preaching, that nowhere else was available to them in the Middle Ages. In the heretical sects, above all, among the Cathars and Waldenses, women had the right to administer the sacraments, preach, baptize, and even acquire sacerdotal orders. It is reported that Waldes split from the orthodoxy because his bishop refused to allow women to preach, and it is said of the Cathars that they worshipped a female figure, the Lady of Thought, that influenced Dante's conception of Beatrice. The heretics also allowed women and men to share the same dwellings, even if they were not married, since they did not fear that this would necessarily lead to promiscuous behavior. Heretical women and men often lived freely together, like brothers and sisters, as in the agapic communities of the early church. Women also formed their own communities. A typical case was that of the Biglones laywomen from the urban middle class who lived together, especially in Germany and Flanders, supporting themselves with their labor outside of male control and without submitting to monastic rule. Not surprisingly, women are present in the history of heresy as in no other aspect of medieval life. According to Gottfried Koch, already in the 10th century, they formed a large part of the Bogomils. In the 11th century, it was again women who gave life to the heretical movements in France and Italy. At this time, female heretics came from the most humble ranks of the serfs, and they constituted a true women's movement developing within the frame of the different heretic groups. Female heretics are also present in the records of the Inquisition. Of some we know that they were burned, of others that they were walled in for the rest of their lives. Can we say that this large female presence in the heretic sects was responsible for the heretics' sexual revolution? Or should we assume that the call for free love was a male ploy designed to gain easy access to women's sexual favors? These questions are not easily answered. We know, however, that women did try to control their reproductive functionality, as references to abortion and the use of contraceptives by women are numerous in the Parentiales. Significantly, in view of the future criminalization of such practices during the witch hunt, contraceptives were referred to as sterility potions or maleficia, and it is assumed that women were the ones who used them. In the early Middle Ages, the church still looked upon these practices with a certain indulgence, prompted by the recognition that women may wish to limit their births because of economic reasons. Thus, in the Decretum, written by Burchard, Bishop of Worms, circa 1010, after the ritual question, quote, "Have you done what some women are accustomed to do when they fornicate and wish to kill their offspring? Act with their maleficia and their herbs so that they can kill or cut the embryo, or, if they have not yet conceived, contrive that they do not conceive," end quote. It was stipulated that the guilty ones should do penance for 10 years, but it was also observed that, quote, "It makes a big difference whether she is a poor little woman and acted on account of the difficulty of feeding, or whether she acted to conceal a crime of fornication," end quote. Things changed drastically, however, as soon as women's control over reproduction seemed to pose a threat to economic and social stability, as it did in the aftermath of the demographic catastrophe produced by the Black Death, the apocalyptic plague that between 1347 and 1352 destroyed more than 1/3 of the European population. We will see later that the role this demographic disaster played in the labor crisis of the late Middle Ages. Here we can notice that, after the spread of the plague, the sexual aspects of heresy became more prominent in its persecution, grotesquely distorted in ways that anticipate the later representations of the witches' Sabbath. By the mid-14th century, the inquisitors' reports were no longer content with accusing of the heretics of sodomy and sexual license. Now heretics were accused of animal worship, including the infamous Bacchium sub cuda, or the kiss under the tail, and of indulging in orgiastic rituals, night flights, and child sacrifices. The inquisitors also reported the existence of a sect of devil worshippers called Luciferians. Corresponding to this process, which marked the transition from the persecution of heresy to witch burning, the figure of the heretic increasingly became that of a woman, so that by the beginning of the 15th century, the main target of the persecution against heretics became the witch. This was not the end of the heretic movement, however. Its final consummation came in 1533 with the attempt of the Anabaptists to set up a city of God in the German town of Münster. This was crushed with the bloodbath, followed by a wave of merciless reprisals that affected proletarian struggles all over Europe. Until then, neither the fierce persecution nor the demonization of heresy could prevent the dissemination of heretical beliefs. As Antonio de Stefano writes, excommunication, the confiscation of property, torture, death at the stake, the unleashing of crusades against heretics, none of these measures could undermine the immense vitality and popularity of the heretica pervertitis, or the heretic evil. Quote, there is not one commune, wrote James de Verchy at the beginning of the 13th century, in which heresy does not have its supporters, its defenders, and believers. Quote, end quote. Even after the 1215 crusade against the Albigensians that destroyed the Cathars' strongholds, heresy, together with Islam, remained the main enemy and threat the church had to face. Its recruits came from all walks of life, the peasantry, the lower ranks of the clergy, who identified with the poor and brought to the struggles the language of the gospel, the town burghers, and even the lesser nobility. But popular heresy was primarily a lower class phenomenon. The environment in which it flourished was the rural and urban proletariat, peasants, cobblers, and cloth workers, to whom it preached equality, fomenting their spirit of revolt with prophetic and apocalyptic predictions. We get a glimpse of the popularity of the heretics from the trials which the Inquisition was still conducting in the 1330s in the Trento region or northern Italy, against those who had given hospitality to the apostolatics, when their leader, Fra Delcino, had passed through the area 30 years before. At the time of his coming, many doors had opened to give Ducimo and his followers shelter. Again, in 1304, when announcing the coming of a holy reign of poverty and love, Fra Delcino set up a community among the mountains of the Versaillese. The local peasants, already in revolt against the Bishop of Vercelli, gave him their support. For 3 years, the Dulcinians resisted the Crusades, and the blockade the bishop mounted against them, with women in male attire fighting side by side with men. In the end, they were defeated only by hunger and by the overwhelming superiority of the forces the church mobilized against them. On the day when the troops amassed by the Bishop of Vercelli finally prevailed upon them, more than 1,000 heretics perished in the flames or in the river or by the sword in the cruelest of deaths. Dolcino's companion, Margarita, was slowly burned to death before his eyes because she refused to abjure. Dolcino himself was slowly driven among the mountain roads and gradually torn to pieces to provide a solitary example to the local population. And there we go. That's the end of the third section. Hopefully that sounded like. Hopefully that sounded better with my mic than without. Oh, okay. Well, before I don't see, I'm not used to doing the mic, right? So I think I had it too close to my face last time, so I could hear my breathing, and it really annoyed me when I listened back to it. I'm like, God damn, I sound like. Like, well, that's.
Oh, it's always something like that. There's always something.
So sorry about any, like I said, pronunciations. That's a lot of like sex to go through to try to memorize appropriately. Pronounce it like appropriately. It's like, oh.
Yeah. A lot of old words.
Yeah, right. You get the idea, though, I think.
Oh yeah. And it struck me that as a thinking woman, you just kind of are a heretic against the patriarchal,
right.
And taking all of that stuff and then meshing it with religion and spirituality means that you can spiritually persecute political dissidents. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because they're not just political dissidents; they're evil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Which helps, especially when they're so corrupt, right? To like really get people like to back you, or to come pull together, right? Because
and again,
this time,
I'm
honestly,
sure
the church was so corrupt. It's like I think I showed a couple of my panels where we got like even the peasantry's burning the priest for selling indulgences.
I think I've seen that picture.
Yeah,
It's a
it's one
memorable
that was
one.
in here. Let me
Oh,
see.
I wasn't. I'm sorry, I wasn't watching. I was sewing and listening and taking notes.
Yeah, this one. See.
Ah, yep.
Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah, right?
Um,
I know, I think it's
no, it
great.
just excuse me. It reminded me so much, and I know she probably wrote it this way to draw the parallels between then
Right.
and now, but they are
Well, I don't know.
unmistakable.
This came out like in the first publishing of Caliban and the Witch, I think came out either like in like the early 90s.
Oh wow, I didn't
Yeah,
realize it
so
was
if you
that
think
old.
about it, like isn't that interesting how things like again spiral or
It's
circle around?
terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying. Because we're still, in the same system with the same motivations and the
Well,
same
well, that's because
problems.
it's sort of necessary for like big imperial, which it might when I mean imperial, I mean expansionist civilizations
Mm,
to necessitate racism because you want to steal other people's land, so you have to indoctrinate your masses to kill them, as well
yeah,
as um, the misogyny. Right, it's going to be intertwined always within um, a imperialist civilization because you need to control
right.
population, right? So that's
Well,
it's
because
always like
people
yeah,
are a
it's just really
resource.
interesting to
It's
see the
resource
similarities, how
management,
it always just
baby.
comes back around to like the sort of same thing but different, and
Hmm.
the same thing for the time. So
Meet the new boss, the same as the old boss.
right.
Yeah, exactly. And it just is so interesting how heresy back then, 1,000 years ago, I guess it was, basically meant democratization, the distrust of established authority, and equality for women.
Basically,
Which all sounds
so
terribly
and
familiar.
the
And
reason
it's like
why
these,
it's definitely when it comes to the women aspect was because a lot of things that that were brought up within the heresy was women,
yeah,
right? Which really
yeah.
shows like
Well, because again, within a patriarchal structure, a woman doing a thing is heretical, like,
right,
or
and
is against the
right,
grain
yeah, get
anyway.
your mask off, like thanks for showing us your cards, yeah.
Yeah, no, and
It's like yeah, okay, so I guess it is really important, women as seen as equals, because you're getting butthurt about it so badly.
right. Oh, it's. But women aren't important now. Please, for the love of everything that's holy, shut up.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like as if these truths just keep bubbling up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, these same ideas, these same truths that women are equal, and maybe you shouldn't trust corrupt authority,
and
and like
even just the
la da da da
witching, the
da.
calling out of heresy, even for like materialist feminists.
Yeah,
It might not be physical burning of the witch, but it's definitely like a call out, the threats, the heresy of like stating that material reality is a thing. You get thrown under
right.
the bus for that. That's heresy in our day and
No,
age.
I know, and
So
then
it's
you get
like
shunned. Yeah,
it's like the same thing. And then the turf is the new witch or the new heresy, or
right,
the new heretic.
right. Yeah, and that was why. Oh, thank you for your comment, by the way, underneath my video last week or whenever that was. I had to comment on that. That was just like, oh, are we going to talk about this at last? Finally,
Which
how going on 70% of liberals don't think that trans women should be in women's sports either.
nobody really does.
No,
It's
and then
it's
that's
a
been
manufactured movement, so they have to pretend and showcase it in the media
right, but
as if it
that's the
is, and
point.
promote it in the
That's
media. But that doesn't mean everyone thinks like that. It just makes
right,
it
but
look
so
optically like people do, but people
right,
don't.
but so they haven't been able to really move the needle on the sports thing
Hmm.
because that's just so blatantly ridiculous
Yeah,
materially when you look at it,
yeah,
and it's
because
who are you going to
because
believe, me or your
what
lying
is
eyes?
sport? It's entertainment. It's media. So when you have it like showcase to you what exactly one of the issues is in the media, you're like, oh, so this is what
Right,
you meant. That's why it's so easy for people to start understanding when it comes to that, because it's a form of
right,
entertainment. So they're having to watch it play out in real time. With the movement
yep,
before, didn't have that. They were just saying, oh, trans rights are human rights. Like, and it was just about being nice.
hmm, yeah, and it's more ethereal and it's less in your face, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's disassociated from its material reality from when it's
right,
showcased in media, unless until it's actually showcased in media, right?
Well,
When it's
sports
talked
is
about in
nothing
media,
but
then
material
showcased in
reality.
media. I mean, so
That's the thing. That I think that's why it falls
well,
apart in sports.
exactly.
They're
That is
nothing
why
but
it falls
material
apart.
reality. Did you win the fucking match or not?
Yeah, because I mean, if
That's it. That's
anything,
all
the
sports is.
sports issue is probably one of my least. It's not like I don't think it's important. I just think that it's least important than things like, say, I don't know, women's shelters, jails.
No, I know.
And so, but yet
I
you'd
am.
think that would make people, be like more enraged, but it's a sports thing. And the reason why is because it's showcased to them in real time instead of just,
Yeah.
not formed in a sentence because you're not allowed to say certain things in TV because that's the only place where
Right.
these people are getting this information.
Well, sports is supposed to be the last bastion of, well, if you'll forgive me, the place where there's not philosophy. There's no politics in sports. Like I say, it's you get in, you either beat your opponent or you don't, and that's it.
Well, I mean, I
And
think it
I've
depends. It
heard people
depends.
talk about how it is wonderful because of that. And I think that if that's how you feel about it, if that's your, little safe harbor away from all of this shit, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah. Well, I think it depends, especially when it comes to things like contact sports and stuff. I think that definitely has a very political motivation because it actually starts to idolize the team, right? Kind of nationalistically, right? You have your team, your side, and you go to war and compete. Like that is a little bit more of an issue when it comes to actually politicizing entertainment because it gets sort of this mindset of competition, which our society is
yeah,
invested in, let's say. So I think that
true.
if it's just like, I don't know, like just for your personal, like, benefit of like being, great at a particular physical, thing, such as like, I don't know, even like rock climbing or things like that. But when it comes to like
Yeah.
football, like I'm like, that kind of has a little bit of a political tone to it, just the way
I
that it.
genuinely don't know. I am so not a
But see,
sports
I
person.
don't care about
So
sports. I'm sorry for anyone who's
no, right?
really into
Yeah,
it. I really do not like sports. I like doing my own quote unquote sports if it's like, say, even just like camping is considered a
right,
sport to some, or
right.
like I said, hiking or spelunking. I like going spelunking myself, right?
Oh,
Because we got a lot of caves around here, so around my area. So
that's
like that kind of
awesome.
sport, I think it's awesome. It's the whole
Yeah.
competitive game sport that I'm like, like it doesn't really appeal to me, and I just kind of get annoyed with it. People get
No,
so like
yeah, agreed.
fanatical about it too, and I'm just like, who cares? Why do you
Oh my
care?
gosh, like I spent my whole childhood dodging football games on the television.
Right?
So
Right?
yeah, so
Exactly.
annoying. And then they stop every 5 seconds for 5 minutes, and you're like, is this ever going to end?
Right? And it's like, why should I care which team wins? It's not like they're even
No.
from the area that they're playing for because they buy the people. So why do you care?
Yeah,
Who's
that's
my
true. I
representation
always
of my
wondered about
country?
that
Who's my
too.
representation of like my state? So what?
Except it's not, because that guy's from the other side of the
Yeah, that
country.
guy's from
Yeah.
Japan. Like, or that guy's from
Right,
fucking Sweden.
right. They
Like,
don't pull the
what are you
greatest
talking
talent
about?
from your area. They don't.
I know they just
That
buy the
would
players. I
almost be
know it's so I
interesting.
don't get it. I don't get the appeal. I really don't. But people, I don't
No,
know.
I don't either. But I've heard people say that they appreciate it because it is, so immediate and material and not philosophical. That is, I've heard people say that.
I know people might say that, but I think that they might be wrong because it does.
Maybe they're full of shit. I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
in
I
in
can
lieu
understand
of
why.
my
I
own
understand why.
opinion because I
It does have
don't.
a politicized connotation to it, but I mean, take it what I say with a grain of salt. Go figure it out for yourself. I guess I don't know. I just think that maybe it does a little, and I think you just don't want to admit it because you like it.
Like not me, because I don't
Not
have.
you. I'm
I'm
not
just
saying you. I'm
repeating
just
what
saying
I've
people
heard.
that do
Yeah.
enjoy
No,
it
it's just
and try
funny.
to
It's just.
justify it. I'm like, I don't know. I think there might be
Yeah.
some
Well,
bias
and
and reason around why you don't want to believe it might be a little bit, politicized in
and like
its
as
sort of
far as
formation.
football, it's a dumb game
Football,
that will
soccer,
hurt you.
baseball, basketball, all of that. I don't know. You do you, boo. Though you do you. I'm just gonna be not.
Yeah. You don't sound like you're much of a team player there, Kat.
Well, not for something as stupid as football.
Yeah.
Maybe for my
Yeah.
class, for women, for like, but see, my sport is more is more strategically in effect invested in life. That's
Is
not
politics a
divorced from
team
it,
sport?
right? You know what should be a sport? You know what should be a sport? How many
What?
how many Tesla charging stations you can light up on fire before you get caught? Whoever gets the most taken out wins.
I hear he's having a bad time lately.
Yeah, his stock is down so much, which is good because and that's how he is rich, right? Is because he borrows against his stock, and so he's making money not doing anything. If his stock goes, if his company goes, so does his riches. Just so you know, tactics work, people. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's what I'm
This is so gonna get
hearing.
me like kicked off of YouTube, and you're gonna get like kicked off with too if I keep talking this way. Okay.
We're almost an hour in at this point.
Yeah, but you never know. They're really starting to crack down on anyone showcasing any speech that isn't, brown nosing the new administration.
Oh
So,
wow!
like, I mean, there's so many people even like getting detained in ICE centers that are fucking from like Britain, from Canada, that are just went
Right
out,
now, I heard
just went
about
down there,
that.
like, and now they're like
So
in like ICE detention centers. Like, it's crazy.
for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or is that what happened?
No, they're just trying to go through the border because like they like
Oh,
well even like she one of the girls she was like 19 or 20 she was from Britain or England or whatever. She was down
right.
here backpacking. She was just on a backpacking trip, and they got her and put her in detention center, and she has no way to communicate with her family, like one-on-one. Oh yeah, I know that a few Canadians got caught in the border just because one I know was going down to work. She got a casting job or whatever. And when she went to go down there, they threw her in the cell in a detention center. Like, there's a bunch of just people just getting like thrown away. I'm like, wow, fascism is a right right now.
Yeah. Wow. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. I'm going to need to be such a Debbie Downer.
No, no, no. I wish I had something more to say on the subject. Like I say, I've been mostly writing this week, and so I don't have the commentary on the current events that I feel like maybe I
Oh,
should.
if I could tell you, this week has been crazy. I mean, Trump just
Yeah.
decided to bomb Yemen to fuck.
Yes, yes, yes.
To
I
try to
did
start a
see.
war with Iran, because that's what Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel wants, and what Israel wants Israel gets because of AIPAC. Then we have the Gaza ceasefires now ended, so now they're just bombing the shit out of it. Mostly women and children, by the way, in case anyone cares to know. Yeah. So they're going to be wiped out, and we're going to, and again, going to try to start a war with Iran because that was on the list of countries way back in the days of Bush era that they planned on invading. Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan,
Well, that's
Iran.
just hilarious, isn't it? That
Oh yeah, and they've
missed her
taken off
out.
every single one. The only one that hasn't fallen yet is Iran, and that's where their target is, right? That's their target. And Iran has nuclear power. It's not small. It's a good got a good grasp of their their society, of their military, of their ability to actually defend themselves. So yeah, we might be. I don't know, hopefully we'll at least be able to get through Caliban and the Witch before anything drastic happens. But I don't know. Things are just going balls to the walls, crazy and fast. Like, he's just pumping things up to like high degree level that it's getting really tense out there. But again, I don't want to be Debbie Downer.
No, I just like, isn't it? I hate to be like all armchair about it, but isn't it just interesting how he is apparently continuing the same fucking narrative from 20 years ago?
Oh yeah, I
Really?
know. Well, because he's not anything different than the rest of them. Like,
No, I know, but it's just like, what would you make of that if you had, ever bought the idea of this guy as some kind of an outsider gonna come in and shake shit up? I mean, he's certainly shaking things up, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know the mentality of people who think that he's always been a fucking
why in the fuck?
billionaire.
Yeah, I don't
He's always been
understand. Yeah,
he's always been a
I
snake
don't
oil
know. It's
salesman.
just
So it's like
I
I
have
don't know why
heard.
people, or even more, which is even more egregious, is the fact that people thought Elon Musk was fucking like
Oh,
some
hey,
sort of
Claire.
like bastion of like free speech and like for the working class. Bitch, he's got $500 billion. He's not like you. He doesn't
Yeah,
like you. He doesn't think that you're any like he's not
I
fighting for your rights of anything. He wants to fuck you over, by the way.
like. I think it
And
comes
now I think
back
you're
to the
realizing it,
idea
but
that
a little too late.
a lot of people in their minds are like temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Like they don't think of themselves as working
I know. Well, they
class.
don't
You
want.
know what
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean?
They try to identify it with them in that class because, and that's what they've tried to really portray with their campaign, with the Trump campaign, that they were
Right.
part of, like they were on their side and they were part of them. You're not in the club. It's a big club. You're not in it. As George Carlson
Right.
would say, it's a big damn club, and you ain't invited. You ain't in it.
Oh, I miss that guy.
Yeah, he was good. I loved him. He's a good
Yeah.
comedian.
Yeah, and I certainly saw. I wonder what he would have to say about some of
Oh,
this
he'd have
stuff.
he'd be having a field day, or he'd be like in an ICE
Yeah.
detention center for
Oh my
speaking
God.
out on a comedy central stage or something.
It's the kind of thing where you say if he were alive today, he'd be having a heart attack.
Yeah, he might not be having a good time.
Of
Actually,
the
yeah,
state of things. Yeah.
yeah. What a world.
Yeah.
Well, I knew it was
And
going to be interesting when Trump came. Like, yeah, this is going to be because I know because the thing with liberals and Republicans, the difference is liberals have to try to optically look like they're morally justified and morally sort of
right.
superior than the evil right wing. When and then you got the Republicans are just like, I don't fuck it, get them. Like, so that's the only
Are
difference.
you
The
there? Okay.
policy's not different. It's just that the way that they go about to get to their goals is different optically. That's it.
Right. Right.
Right. So I knew it was going to go balls to the walls, but he's really going balls to the walls. He's now associating. He's made associations to terrorism and protesting Tesla. So that's going to be
Mm.
fun. Like, and that you're able to get kicked out, like the guy at the university. He has a green card. He is an actual full citizen, and they're just gonna deport him. Remember, I was telling you that was going to happen. They were just going to start deporting people, whether or not they were like legally in the country, whether or not they're a legal citizen. Already starting to happen.
Yeah.
So
Claire
I
says,
saw
I
this
think the
coming a mile
reason.
away, but
No, yeah, and I did too. And here's where she goes, I think the reason he thought, sorry, Claire says, I think the reason they thought he was different is because he talks in such a casual way compared to how most politicians
yeah,
speak quite formally and reserved. Even so, he is so obviously a lying clown. Right. Like,
yeah. He's like the
how,
guy that you would see at the pub, and after work, and like that's the way he comes across. That's the way he talks. But people have to
right.
realize he's a businessman, like a real estate agent. He schmoozes. That's his whole thing. That's how he maintains power and his riches. He's a good schmoozer. He
Hmm.
can sell you things. He's in real estate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. Oh my God.
so, but I mean, I can see why people want something different, but it's really sad to see people not be able to like understand their own history, to understand like in context, like politics throughout the years. Because if they did, they wouldn't be so, you know, dead set on supporting all of his bullshit.
Well, or how we've gone round and round and round this block so many times. And
I know exactly. It's just the same old, same old, same old, except for it's just getting more ridiculous and outlandish the further we go.
yeah. Well, and I mean, we talked today about just how ridiculous and outlandish that shit can get. What was the phrase? I wrote it down. Crushed with a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's where that goes, folks.
Right.
Okay, that's where that shit goes. And I can't. We
Right.
help put weight to the side of the good. You know.
Hmm.
Jeez Louise. So, thank you once again for reading all of that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I had fun. I always have fun when I come on.
Oh, good. I don't know how long you want to stay. It's 1:00 now, which means we've only been doing this for an hour.
Wow, I read fast.
Yeah. Remember the night rider when you look at the night sky? What? Have you ever seen 1979's Mad Max 1? No, I have not seen. Hi, Love Lover.
I think
I have
I
not
have,
seen.
but like a long time ago. Like a long time ago.
I hear it's life changing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even remember that quote. So it's
No, I'm not quoting anything. I'm not quoting anything. I've
no.
never
I'm
seen it.
talking
I've
about
just.
that DFT.
Oh,
Remember the Night Rider when you
yeah.
look at this? I don't know what that is.
See you on the
Yeah.
road, skag. Okay. Is that a quote from the movie too? We've had some very interesting people come by today. I'm pretty sure at the beginning somebody was asking me to take my top
Oh, are you
off
serious?
with that
Nice. That's
English.
lovely.
Yeah. Which, like, that's not going to happen, obviously. That's not what this.
No. This is
You're in the
YouTube,
wrong
not
place, friend.
OnlyFans.
Right, you're in the wrong place, friend. Aye, aye. That just brings me back to those little boys I did that video on a few months ago. That was a memorable video. Oh my god.
You gals are mad. Only people that read it. Huh? I don't understand what that means.
I don't either. They're the only people who read the comments as they come in, maybe.
Oh,
We were saying that a while back. A
maybe.
lot of people don't actually read the freaking, like,
Yeah, people just
chat.
don't read. Just it's a sad state of the world.
Well, yeah, I know, but they don't even read the chats that are directed at them in real time. Like, people are talking to them, and they're just, like, oblivious.
Yeah, bloop, bloop, bloop. Derpy derp.
Yeah. To the point where maybe I should understand why people don't, like, come in the chat and try and talk to me, because, well...
You talk back?
That's just not how this usually works, I guess. I don't know. Maybe if we ever get enough people in here that it becomes an issue, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, then you would have a moderator who would take out the trolls. Just ban them,
Yeah.
like take them away.
Right. But I still would like to, I don't necessarily need to read every single comment, but like people who are trying to
but
enter
the whole point, I think, of a live would be the interaction, right?
Right, yeah. Right. I'm trying to interact with, like, have a conversation.
Why would you have it there so that people, I guess people can interact with each other, but like,
right.
I'm not a person who likes to idolize anyone, so why wouldn't the person who's putting on the video also interact with
Right, yeah.
people that are there?
I don't, how isn't it going there to try and interact with the person on the screen? How is that not what that is?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm totally... Did you hear that a couple of Andrea Dworkin's books have come back into print?
People of big platforms have a live stream or like a live section like on their screen, and it's going like so fast. I'm like, what is the point then?
Right, yeah, I don't know. Those people can't even be having a conversation with one another because it's too quick.
And they're not. They're really not.
Right. It's like they just want to get their
But you can't even read it on the screen. You have to like pause it like every millisecond to try to like to try to get your thing.
It's like two contradictory forms of media going on at the same time. How do you, and Claire wants to know
being ADHD. Like there's so many things going on all at once.
Shouting into the void, yeah.
Like, you can't focus. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Claire.
It's
okay, Claire says that we hear that Andrew.
That's where we got. You can't focus on anything, and everything's shiny and bright and flashy.
Well, I think I don't know. Personally, I have my limits. Like that thing where they want to put the song and the motions and the text that all come together to like form a singular message. I have to watch that shit 3 or 4 or 5 times to like get it all and put it all together.
Yeah.
Why am I wearing 2 shirts? It's called a slip under a dress. Why are you being nosy? Anyways, I'm working at my conservative table while listening Can't Converse today, says Alfalfa. Oh, that's a problem.
Oh, Alfalfa.
Yeah, and Claire wants to know if we heard that a couple of Andrea Dworkin's books have come back into print, which I had not, but that's cool.
Which ones, do you know?
Good question.
I really want to read Right-Wing Women, because I know that it's one, but it really kind of gives insight into like...
Yeah.
the rationality that someone
I thought it
has
was
and
two
why they
shirts. No,
think what they think,
no, sorry.
even though it's to their detriment.
Right, no, yeah, and I think I'm sure it's very insightful. I know it's very insightful because I've read, snippets of it. But
Yeah,
living in the
it'll be
South
like a
like I do, I
while.
think it would
It
just
will
make
be
me
a while.
sick.
I already have one like books I plan on reading that I haven't tried yet. Like I'm going to. I forget that. Oh, I'm so bad. I forget the author's name. I forget what her name is. But it's called Wild Politics. And
That sounds fun.
it's feminism, globalization, environment, and economic sort of analysis. And I heard it's good, so I actually have that book now. So I'm gonna be reading that one soon on my free time if I find any. If I'm not busy going up mountains
Getting lost up mountains.
and getting lost up mountains
Oh my goodness.
somehow. So
I'm sure that whatever you had planned would have been far more, fulfilling and engaging and interesting and less harrowing.
yeah, well, we did end up after coming down from the mountain. We did end up finding the place. It's on the lake, well, one of the lakes out in the bush, and there's what's called recreation sites. So recreation sites are like free campsites that are away from civilization that were used by loggers in the forestry industry when they would go up to log, and someone would have to
Hmm.
stay there with equipment, and they would have so they just after the use when they leave and that no one's the campsite or the recreation site's there, so anyone can just go in and use it. But they're never marked. They're not. There's no maps. You just kind of have to know where they are by like knowing or looking for them out in out in the butt fuck nowhere. But if you can find them, they're like awesome because they're secluded. They're out in the wilderness, and there's like you get a fire pit and a bench, like a wooden bench, right? And there's no one around, and it's free. So you just got to know where they are. So because like they're off in the like I said, bush. Yeah, but I don't plan on doing it up the mountain. Like because we were up a big mountain where it started literally to snow. That people haven't been up there so long that there were sinkholes in the in the roads, and like you could tell the mudslides and the rocks and all that. I'm like, oh, lovely. Trying to make it back down, and it's like off like on a cliff, right? Because we're on a mountain, so it's like this unstable road hugging a mountain. You're winding your way up.
Yeah, no. Oh my God. April, so Claire says she wants to get all three but due to finances, she's going to get one for now. It's hard to choose which book.
I'd say if you can't
And
afford it, just PDF it online free.
yeah, all her stuff is available, I believe, right?
Exactly. That's what I would do. If you can't afford it, it's okay. I think knowledge should be free. And I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
a lot of if anything, like it's okay. If you have the means, it's one thing. If you don't, I think it's more important to have the knowledge.
Well, not to be morbid, but she's dead. She's not going to hurt for your money.
Yeah. Well, in the case of Caliban the Witch, it's completely free online to read because Sylvia
Ooh,
Federici made it possible to do so. She said, "Put this. You can pay for it. You
that's
can buy it,
awesome.
but put it free online." And so they put it free online because she wanted people to read it. She thought it was
That's
more important,
awesome.
right? And that
And that,
the common knowledge is more important
mhm.
than her finances. She's able to support herself by being a teacher, right? She's okay. She's not like in desperate need of the cash.
Let's see. April Brown says, I heard people go missing in those places, and especially national parks, but if it's free, then it's free. Yeah, I've heard a lot of those stories too, but I think they're just very popular. I'd say, and Alfalfa says, I'd say use your local library, interlibrary loan network, but oof, it's awkward checking out Radfem books in person.
Yeah, it just depends. I know that my library does not have that sort of support of free knowledge. They'll only put in certain books, and there's like no radical feminist literature or
Like, theoretically,
no
your library will order
analysis or
books.
nothing. There's a lot of trans stuff.
Right. Theoretically, your library will order books for you. I haven't really looked here to see what they have, honestly, because, well,
They could order
I
in
don't
books
get.
for you from different counties, I think. But for the Canada, there's only there's certain um, areas where you can bring in a book from, but they would also have to have that book. So it's just sort of like one little area where you can look online. If it's in a different town, it'll be shipped over or whatever or delivered. but they'd have to have it in the first place. I know my library does not do that. A lot of the books they don't have the books I'd be interested in reading, and not just for feminism, but for other things too. It's very, very yeah, liberalized when it comes to like the political or sociological section. Yeah, right. It'll be, I think, in like political philosophy, political science. Sorry, area, the nonfiction political science area. Like, yeah, I know. I just know that my area is all very, very, very liberal or very Republican. There's nothing radical that you can find. Basically, I mean, maybe one or two, but very, very hard to find. Even Canadian authors that are more radical, they won't even put them in their library. Yeah. Well, my PDF, I don't read it online. I PDF, I go online and I print it. I used to print it all for free too. I'd go to the library and like print up a bunch and just not pay for it. And so I literally have books in binders that are printed from the library in binders, like on my shelf as books, because I don't like doing it online. Hey, 5-figure discount for printable knowledge. Okay, I'm not gonna judge.
That's cool, actually.
Fuck the
Alfalfa
system
says in
any way you
Michigan they can
can.
check out. Yes. And here I used to just take them. When I was a kid, I used to just steal library books.
Well, see, if they had anything good, maybe I would have, but like they don't, so I have to print it, and I don't want to use my paper and my ink. That shit's expensive.
Yeah.
It's their fault for not having it for knowledge for people. So I'll have to do it
Okay,
myself,
we
and
got
then
some
I'll leave it
comments.
physically here, and then whoever wants to borrow it from me can. I'll be the
Right,
only
yeah,
radical
that's
in the
awesome.
library,
That's awesome.
right?
The
Oh,
library there. They would probably have it. That's a pretty good
yeah,
connection to have. April Brown says, here in Georgia, there are many Republicans, but liberals mostly live in the cities. It is just what it is. There's no way to avoid them and the pygmies. Yeah. And Claire says, that's such a good idea. I will try that at my local library. Even if they charge, it's usually only 10 cents a page. It's still going
right,
to be a whole lot cheaper than buying the book.
right.
Nice.
And then
Yeah.
you just go to the
Yeah.
dollar store and get a couple binders. I mean, do anything special and fancy. And then you could just get those, those sheets, those because that's what I'm reading
Oh,
the book off of right now is one of the here. I'll show you. This is what I'm reading it off of. I gotta move this. Hold on.
that's awesome.
It's a binder with pages that I PDF
Uh,
from the library, right? And then you get one of these, these little spillage, adversive spillage things, or I don't know what you call these things, tabs.
page
But you just put the
covers.
paper in, right? And you slide it in, and then boom, you got yourself a book. Right? Just in
Nice.
a dollar store binder, and then it's, write down Sylvia Friedrich, and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. My trouble is like knowing which book I want at any given moment, like choosing. It's like such a.
I
And then I
have
don't
a
have time for
pile
anything right now
in my
anyway.
computer so huge full of books that I haven't
Yeah.
yet to print or read. Because it just, yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm not too sure how it works now though, either with the printers at the library anymore. It might be I'm not able to do that, but still, if I can get the for the cheap ink, right, from those ink stands or whatever that you always see in malls or whatever, where it's
Hmm.
not the actual
Hmm.
printer's ink.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've
Yeah.
disabled that. You can disable that, right? Because it'll only take certain
Hmm.
ink things. You can disable
Hmm.
that feature in the printer, and once you do that, you can just put in like the cheap ink. So I put in the cheap ink, and so now I can still do it that way. Because I know that there are some sort of security issues, probably because of me at the library. They're probably wondering where all their ink and their paper is gone. So I know that there's some sort of like, yeah, you have to, I think, give money now first before you're like to the people or something. I forget. It's been a while since I went to the library, but I know that had to stop because I think they were getting suspicious of me because I would go a lot. Oh yeah, see, that maybe there's something that they put on ours.
Yeah.
I know that they didn't have it though, and that's what I would do is I would just go to the library and print full books, and I would do it like
Right.
a chapter a day, like a chapter a time, so they wouldn't be too suspicious, and I
Ah.
would work it up.
Yeah, right. You don't just stand there and print 350 pages all at once. That would be crazy.
Yeah, no. So I just do one chapter a day, and I'll be reading one book, and while I'm reading one book, I'm going to the library printing another one for the next.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No.
Me read it, so I might do that.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. A little reading for you and your book.
Right. Let's see. Claire says, have them printed out. Will be usefully for a feminist group at my NA group. I've been reading Female Eunuch, and multiple women have asked about it, and they liked what they heard.
Yeah, I've read that one.
Nice.
It's good.
Alpha says, I've been flipping through Female Erasure lately.
I've read that one as well.
That
one's good as well.
Claire. Yeah.
I've got a big library.
Feminist group. I think I have a feminist group.
Yeah. Of course there is. There always is. Have it anyways. Do it anyways. Exactly. That's what we do. That's what me and our group do. Because we've had instances where they try to crash the party. So we have to meet in secret now. Because
and you can't just
by the way, if you don't know,
announce.
I'm from Canada, so we're really stingent upon the you better let the dick in.
Oh God, when you say it like that.
I'm just being honest.
I know, but phrasing. When you say it like that, it really feels just
good. I
just
want
as
people
bad as it is,
I
doesn't
want
it?
people to have that sort of aversion when they hear about trans.
Yeah.
Is to get that ick feeling is appropriate.
Yeah.
So I'm.
Oh, no, it is. It works.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh my God.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out. My bad. I just looked over at my screen. I was like, what the hell is she?
I'm sorry. I'm just
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I'm just.
I'm trying to think of another feminist work that. It's Sheila Jeffries. I forget what it's called, like queer something. Oh, I can't believe I'm like farting on it right now. I have it too in my library, but I don't want to go take a look. But it's about queer politics. Just type in Sheila Jeffries, it'll come up if you put in queer book or something. That one's really good because that one does go through a nice history too, with the queer movement as well, which is nice. Try to see it from the and yeah, and that one was written like in I think the late 90s or maybe the early 2000s, something like that. So yeah.
long this is all going on. But like, uh, and I hate to get ahead of ourselves, but I wonder what we're gonna read after this. Do you want me to read something, or should we like? I'm just loving the camaraderie. You know, I don't want to.
Well, oh, I've got tons of books I could read. I mean, but it doesn't even have to be
Right.
just strictly feminism either. It could be imperialism. It could be like
Yeah.
environmental, or it could be economic and globalization. And I've got it all. I got lots. I can go through my books and see which one might be appropriate. Or maybe we can even do a poll and people can put in their suggestions. Oh, Claire, I forgot. Yeah, I think I knew that too, that
So.
you're in Canada.
Mm-hmm. So it might
Oh,
be
fellow
quite an issue then.
Canadian.
One of the
Woo!
support workers. Oh wow. By the way, what websites do you use to find book PDFs?
I just
Says
Google it
Claire.
or whatever browser search you do. Just put in the title, put in read free online PDF, and just try to go through it. You're gonna need one of those blockers, like a security for your computer before, like when you do that, so that you don't get any viruses from like fake sites. But usually you'll be able to find books, particularly radical books, by doing that. And I think it's because people can't find them anywhere, so they upload them themselves. Oh, I know which one I should read. Maria Mies's Maria Mies's book. I can't remember. Patriarchy and Accumulation. Women in the Third World or something like that. That one's good. I've heard of it. I've not read with it. I'm not read with it. I haven't read it. Yeah. Hold on, I'm just gonna try to find that book for 2 seconds. Give me a sec here. Here it is. It's another another one of my little inventions.
No, and I'm really just enjoying sort of being the facilitator of you spreading some of the that you have stock.
Right. Okay, hold on. There it goes. This one. This is good. This was a good one. Mary Mies's Patriarchy and Accumulation on a World Scale. Women in the International Division of Labor. So this really gives an idea of women around the world and their sort of status and what they're doing as movements themselves. Unfortunately, she died last
Okay.
year, which made me super sad.
Mm.
She was
Right.
really,
Yeah. You
she was
mentioned
really
that.
one of my favorite authors, and you know, political analysis for women. She
It goes
knew what she
more
was
back
talking
to
about.
like with the human resources we were watching, right?
What?
This goes back to more like the human resources movie like we were
Yeah.
watching about the accumulation of
So we got here. Let's see. What is feminism? Oh, and she also goes off about postmodern feminist shit. And she was one of another earlier ones that was like, "This is not okay. We not divorce ourselves from the body." Like, and this was back in like the late '90s, I think. Let's see. She first wrote it, 1998 when she made that preface. Yeah, and then so what is feminism? Social origins of the sexual division of labor, colonization, housewifeization, housewifeization, international women in the new international division of labor, violence against women, and the ongoing primitive accumulation of capital, national
there.
liberation
That's
and women's liberation towards a feminist perspective of the new society. So yeah, really good book, because it gives also solutions and not solutions, but suggestions about what to do now, right? That will have
yeah.
real tangible effect.
That
So
does sound good.
that one is a really great one. Really great one. Really good author. Okay.
men's rights movement or civilization. Anyway, it must have
Yeah.
been as a
Well,
men's
it's
rights
just been
movement.
so like so I see it worldwide just because if to get a big enough civilization that is a caste system, the first priority would be to control the female body because it's the only one that reproduces. So
Right, but
so it's
what's
been
their
so
excuse
ingrained ever
now?
since like the birth of civilization. It's the birth of
Right.
controlling women
Yeah.
after recognizing husbandry, right? You know, the necessity of like farming and all that and having animals and then having to noticing that that's how they reproduce to reproduce that well then now we need to control the population. Okay, women. So we're basically the birth of
Right.
cattle civilization, which is like
Right.
horrible to think about, but it's true.
Well,
I know. Well, if you're going to do it to animals, why not do it to people? Right? Exactly. Exactly. It is all about
oh,
control,
oh.
being God, right? They've got a
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
complex.
Which, like, I feel like if you had any real connection to anything you felt like was God, you wouldn't need that.
Well, the only connection to having God is them themselves believing that they're God. Not that there is a God outside of themselves. They think that they're gods of the universe. That they were if I divine if, I don't know, divine right of kings, but like modern style, which is ridiculous to me. But it's the way that they justify
How
what they
many
do.
how many wars did people fight? How many, philosophical movements did we have to go through to get away from that shit, from that very thing?
Right?
Mm. Let's see. Claire wouldn't call it a men's rights movement. It's more a men's demand.
Yeah. It's all just one big pissing contest for men. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they have this competitive likeness inside of them. I don't know.
Well, yeah. It's not even competitiveness, I'd say, because they don't want to compete. They want to own. They want to control. They don't
Well, I
want
think that's
they don't want an adversary that is as equally defiant as they are. They want to easily control everything and all the time.
right. Well, if you'll forgive me, that seems to me to be a corruption of their competitive streak, because
I don't really know how competitive humanity really is, though. I don't know how competitive humanity really naturally is, though, because we're social creatures. We
competition, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that the masculine psyche has a strong element of that in it.
Well, yeah, because
And if you corrupt that by taking away their, making them so insecure that they feel they're, doomed to lose, then yeah, they're not going to want to compete fairly. They're not going to have that friendly, sense of it.
I think it's more just a power trip. I think that it's just a power trip that's been sort of carried on
Well, right, but
generations
why?
because of the way that humanity. Just because you could, once you start the intelligence of it, then without any grounding in the real, it gets
Hmm.
worse and worse generationally through every civilization until it comes to a point where we're now like going to probably blow up the damn earth because like it's a pissing contest for people in power in the civilization of the modern era
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
so divorced now from a reality and being real and natural and being in a natural setting and natural reality and limited by
Right.
what you can do by like the physical material reality of it all. They don't want that.
I think that that's where the feminine perspective really is lacking because as a woman, material reality follows you around
Oh yeah,
and comes back around to be a pest every so often. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, we're so much more associated with bodies because we have such more cyclical bodily,
Right.
purposes
That we have to
or
deal with. Material
abilities,
reality.
or even just abilities. Right? We're
Yeah.
constantly uh, intertwined with that. We can't really escape that.
And I'm just
Nor
talking
should
about
we. Nor should
menstruation.
we. Really.
Yeah, right. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. But so, as a woman, you are just kind of more chained, if you will, to the corporeal because it's going to come and poke you on the shoulder
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
You have to deal with me.
Like,
and that occurred to me years ago, and I suddenly got this amazing like image of what it must be like to be a man.
yeah, that's why you got such a idealization of this sort of homunculus behind the eyes, right? In control, like so, and this is just like your meat cage.
Yeah, and so that dualism, that body-mind dualism, is so masculine to me.
Yeah.
And I've started to think of it that way. And every time I run into it, I'm like, oh, male philosophy again. Here we go.
Yeah. Right.
Because
That's
no
when you
woman
can
could
tell the trans
possibly.
movement is a men's rights movement because it's
Yes.
so divorced from anything.
Okay, speaking of which, April says they're saying that they're fighting for trans rights, but they're basically just fighting for men's rights to take over everything belongs to us. That's why I would call it a men's rights movement. And Alfalfa says, yeah. Recently, a British black woman announced that she was opening a women's only gym. I heard about that. It was refreshing to see other black women back her, at least in the comment section of the videos I was watching.
Yeah. Because it's been such like
really against her.
It's
well,
been
yeah.
such put out there, propagandized that it's such that understanding material reality as a woman and sticking up for other women is somehow a white women thing. Like it's a white thing, which is just like
that's a good point.
Which is well, it's so like and like okay, so what now you're saying that other ancient civilizations didn't know like didn't have the concept of basic sex? Like that's insulting. Stop.
It really is. It really is.
They knew what sex was. They weren't stupid. You might think that you could just put that out there and that people will just, acknowledge that, oh, that must be true because they also just are going back on their own fucking racism that they don't understand. But like to me, that's insulting because you're insinuating that they're stupid and that people will go along with it. It just infuriates me.
Right. And it just, the whole movement is so racist and.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Where were we a minute ago? We were having fun a minute ago. What was that?
I'm trying to think of any other Canadian books I might have that would be interesting. Like, get some Canadian authors on here. I don't know.
I got nothing against that.
Yeah, I'm like in my thought process. I'm like, ooh, look at all the books I have. Which ones do I want to share the most? Yeah.
What a joyful dilemma to have.
Because it would be nice to maybe get some or sort of like foreign political sort of concepts, like foreign policy, how it comes back around to our economics and our imperialism. Because I think that's important. Because I think people also tend to forget that it's connected worldwide in a global manner, the oppression of women, as well as oppression of other peoples, and how like because you can't just skip out and pretend one doesn't exist because they exist consecutively. They have to exist together for it to prop itself up. And so if you're going to take one down, you have to take down them all like, and it's good to have an analysis of that. If there isn't much that you can find that puts them together, you can always form your own analysis by looking at them separately and then forming your own opinion by intertwining them within your understanding. So I'll take a look at that too. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
Oh no, yeah, that made perfect sense to me because that's how I live.
Yeah.
I noticed these common threads and things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's really important to have that sort of more contextualized understanding, like holistic understanding, because I do find that a lot of feminists in the movement, or even gender critical people or whatever, are so focused, like so intensely focused on just the women's issue that they're going to start having blind spots on things that does really affect women, but they're not going to have like understand why or like what they're doing is actually can become anti-women. Like I don't know if that.
Well, and it's so interesting because on the one hand I agree with you, and then on the other, it's like feminism has been stretched impossibly wide and diluted to the point where it's for everybody.
Well, it's not about for everybody. It's for about like women
Yeah.
in the third world.
Right.
That's who I'm thinking of. Because our action, and the reason why I think it's important for me is because I live in Canada. I got the privilege of a better class status than the women who don't, and they're worse off than me. And lots of my privilege is based off their oppression. So it does, I think, intertwine with that. And I think
Right.
if you don't recognize that, then you end up not caring about certain women, and it will become a white woman sort of movement. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I absolutely. It's like we're at the crossroads where it diverges into identity politics, and we're going to go a different way.
Oh yeah.
Is that what
Well,
is what it seems like?
that was what
Like,
was so detrimental to like any radicalized left is that liberalism and identity politics took out class analysis with and
right.
didn't see women. They saw women as an identity instead of a class. They saw race as an identity, not as a class that goes along economically together. Because that's what the main prime basis is. Just three: racism, women, and economic. Those are the three classes that intertwine continuously throughout imperialist sort of civilization, and those need to be addressed. And all three affect women. All three of those notions of class. So it's not about identity, it's about status and where we fall and how we contribute. And even if we don't realize we're contributing, or we're forced to contribute because there's no other, the structure leaves us no other way to live, that we rely on it. And I think it's good to understand what that is so that you can remove yourself from it and help build solidarity around the world with other women and other women movements. So that's,
And I think it might be good to distinguish like identity is a psychological and emotional state, whereas your class is external and material, right?
yeah, it's a status. It's your status based on material aspects of the
Right.
person, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's the
Sorry.
difference.
Clear.
That's the difference between
Right. No, I
between
know.
identity politics, yeah, and a class analysis. So
Right. So it's personal, internal, psychological, emotional versus external, material. That
exactly. Exactly. And we got to that. If we're going to read Miriam Mises work, we'll get to that. We'll get to all of that.
Well, it's like what you were saying about sort of coming up with your own solution or your own understanding by weaving things together. That's what I've
Yeah,
done.
we
That's
have to. If it's not
sincerely what
there,
I've
do it
done.
yourself. And you have to have a better understanding and from all sort of like facets of like society because everything's intertwined. Nothing exists in a vacuum. It really doesn't. And
Well,
it's
so
a big
every so
heady task,
often.
but you still got to do it. If you're going to have
Oh,
an
I can't
actual
help myself. Are you
knowledgeable and
kidding
working
me?
understanding about why oppression exists, where it exists, why it exists, who it exists for,
Right.
right?
Right. No, this
Explore
is just
that.
how I think. I can't help myself but try and find these larger patterns. It's kind of maddening sometimes. But so
Yeah.
I do occasionally run across, moments where my
You're breaking up. Sorry, hold on. What did you say? You're kind of breaking me up. Or breaking up, I mean. Yeah, I think so. You're sort of a little bit. Is it just me, guys? Or
on
maybe it's
Wi-Fi.
my connection. I don't know.
God, I hope not.
Oh, it is Abe Simpson. So,
Oh, no, that I've pieced history together from sugar packets. So,
oh,
like, that's an old Simpsons line. I don't know.
okay.
I'm showing my age.
Oh,
Um,
it is. So it is your connection.
oh,
But you seem
shit.
fine now. You seem okay now. So, oh, no, again, you're breaking up. Fuck it. Okay. Yeah, I'm tired. Like, it's really early for me
Thank
too.
you
I'm
for
not
getting
used
up
to getting up
early.
this
And
early because I have ability to make my own time schedules. Yeah, well, I guess, yeah. I just remembering back in the day when I actually had to like go to work at a certain time and schedule and ooh, I don't miss that. Well, some people do strive in a structured sort of environment, but they can make their own structures. That it would be the exact same. Thrive in that. Like I'm not all completely willy nilly. Like do whatever, throw it any situation to the wind. It doesn't matter. Like I have deadlines and stuff, but the ones that I make for myself because I've made commitments. Yeah. Which will lead me to, by the way, saying that the April 22nd is when the verdict comes back for the woman who was assaulted at the march. The one that got punched. So, yeah. So that should be interesting. I will let you know how that goes when that happens. You're breaking up again really bad, hun.
How
Oh,
about now?
you're back. I don't know. You seem okay? Who punched her? Some I forget his name. It's some dude, some big ass dude in like army gear and a sign and a big metal pole, who was an a anti protest for the Million March for Children, which was a nationwide march in Canada about taking SOGI, which is sexual orientation and gender identity, out of schools. And so he just went up, got in her face, was in everyone's face, but when he went up to her and he tried to put his sign in his face, and when she tried to block it, he full out closed-fisted punched her right in the face, fractured her cheek, and like knocked her like almost unconscious. She had a concussion. Yeah, right.
That's so
Fingers crossed.
terrible.
I know. So
Oh,
yeah,
I'm going to be in the
so
Great
we're still
Smoky
helping
Mountain
to
National Park
support
that
with
day.
that and helping to get him get a trial, which just took place actually, and so now we're just waiting the verdict for that. Um, yeah.
Well, we're not going to be on that week. We are the week before and the week after. I'm actually going to be in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park that day.
Oh, yay!
So, yeah, on
Touching
a field
grass,
trip with a
touching
bunch of second
grass.
graders. Yeah. On a field trip with my kids.
Yeah, he could have easily killed her with that punch.
Oh
Could have
yeah.
easily killed her with that punch because it was a full on punch, and he came prepared to fight that day. He had like new kick shitter boots, army fatigue, a metal pole, and was like rearing for a fight. The guy's like over 6 feet tall. Yeah, and like the lady, like is just like this thin little thing, like
Mm-hmm.
half his size, if not more.
And this was a tender, gentle snowflake who thought he was a woman.
No, it was just a guy that
Oh,
was
okay.
there to fight for the trans community. He wasn't even trying to pretend,
Okay.
but it's a men's rights movement.
Right. It's slightly less ridiculous, but still.
Yeah. And so the only difference is he didn't do it in a dress. Like,
Yeah. Well, perhaps he will get less sympathy, therefore. I hate to say it.
yeah. Well, and not going maybe in a women's jail or prison or whatever,
Yeah. But
which
so
is
it is
comforting to know.
straightforwardly just a man assaulted a woman. At least there's that.
Yeah. But I don't think that, I don't know if, because it's been categorized as just simple assault, which is ridiculous in itself. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there'll be any jail time for that. Or just community service is what I'm assuming.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Canada,
god.
that's Canada for you. Like our laws
Yeah,
are
and
pretty
April
lax when it
says,
comes to
yeah, if
violence,
he
especially against women. Like shit doesn't get done here. They really don't.
right, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like y'all are a bit notorious for that. Actually, what with
Yeah, right. You're like, yeah,
uh,
true, true. Like, yeah, pretty lax, pretty lax. And I'm like, I am a prison abolitionist. I think people don't understand what that means. But like in the meantime, until you actually reform the system into something workable and that is like beneficial, you have to do something about like the blatant violence against the community and the citizenry, especially when they try to like assert free speech, right? Like you can't just
Yeah.
have these people walking around like being like this. Someone's gonna get killed, and maybe that's what they want. They would like that, but still, like obviously that would only exist in a fucking society that really shouldn't, based on
Right.
its ideological understandings of itself and like how it just presents itself, and yeah.
No, and I
So
mean, you use the word society loosely if you're talking about a group of people who just
I'm
want.
talking about national kind of society, as in like Canada society,
No, I know,
as a
but it's
whole.
how many. It's society is also a group of people cooperating, and
It's a collection of how the society is in a collective generalized form, and this society is generally a capitalist imperialist society.
yeah. No,
Whether or
I
not you
know.
want
I'm
to,
just
that's the
sort of.
thing. Whether or not you like that or not, you won't have a choice.
I'm not arguing, not arguing. I'm just saying that it's sick.
Yeah,
It's not even living up
it
to
is
what
a
it is
very
supposed
sick
to be.
society. It is a completely sick society, and it's
It seems
sad.
self-contradictory.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even living up to what it's supposed to be.
No, I know it has. Well, it can't, and it knows it, and so it lies about it. That's what propaganda's for.
Yep. Well, that's what bad propaganda's for. Like I say, I'm trying to come
Yeah,
up with some
yeah,
of
but
my
you know
own.
what I mean. Why it has its propaganda, what it uses its propaganda
Yes.
for, and how it, distorts itself to optically look good when it's really not.
Yeah. So I want to keep that on the DL further on, later down the road. But that's like really what my book is propaganda, for
Yeah,
our side.
which is good. Which is great. We love that. We stand with that.
Thank you, thank you. It's what I'm going for. It's like in story form
Yeah,
because storytelling is so powerful.
it really much is. Like I wish I could write a story. I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. I have no imagination. I wouldn't be able to come up with shit.
Well, and then I'm envious of you having the mind to like parse all of that academic material that frankly I just don't know that I do. You
Yeah,
know.
see, well, like I said before, I have much more practical, logical sort of thinking. That's just the way my brain works, I guess. So I
Hmm.
easily can fly through any sort of nonfiction, political science literature, and weed out the shit, which is or the ones that was good and sourced, but try to
Hmm.
come up with an agit pop sort of subversive fictional world. I wouldn't be able to fucking do shit. I couldn't. I'd be like dumbstruck. Nothing
Well,
would
I
come.
mean,
No, head empty, no thoughts.
well, I
Like,
mean, I did cheat in that regard, in that it's basically the real world. It's one of those. It's
like I love
sort of,
reading shit. Like I love fiction myself. It's not like I
yeah.
don't like it. It's just I cannot conceptualize an actual creation of it myself, right? So
Well, and it's like
surrealism and all that great stuff. I love
you
surrealism.
can love music and not be able to play any instrument. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to be engaged in the creation of it to be engaged in the appreciation of it for sure.
that's right. Yeah, that's what matters most.
Yeah. And my time as a musician has definitely taught me a lot about that because like not everybody is good at music. That doesn't mean they don't get to participate. What the fuck is that?
Right? Right. No music for you. You sing
Right,
off key.
no,
You sing off
that's
key.
so
No music for you. No singing.
right. Yeah, no maracas for you. Even you sit in the next room and plug your ears.
Yeah.
Like
If
what?
you in the shower, I hear a tune. We're busting down the door. No singing
Right,
in the shower. No nothing.
right. You didn't qualify for as a good enough singer, so you'd never get to do it. Like it's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I think most things are like that. um, but so that's more my contribution because I can't, and I welcome yours. You know what I mean? And I
Hey, if you
love.
want to give me a platform, I would like to spread my own propaganda through the work of analysis of radical political thought.
Well, see, and that's the thing about like I feel that maybe I could do something important because no offense, but this stuff is very it's dry, isn't it?
Yeah, it
You
is pretty
know,
dry.
and so I'm
That's
going
the
to take
most
all these
important.
ideas and put them into something that people will read and hopefully enjoy. You
Yeah,
know,
for those who don't have such a dry sort of sense to
right,
themselves. Like I am good
right.
with dry pieces. I'm good. I can retain that shit. Usually I have an
That's
understanding,
awesome. That's
but like,
awesome.
yeah, not everyone does, and that's okay too, right? Some people can do symbolism better with fictional works, where I'm just like, what? And
Right.
like I'll get it, but like there's no way that I can really conceptualize and create, which is kind of detrimental because like you need to have like to be able to like even have community to do something strategically and tactful within a movement. You have to create new ways to resist and revolt.
Mm.
And so
Hmm.
I think that part for me is what's most difficult, is trying to conceptualize and reimagine something new and different and
Hmm.
unexpected. So we need each other, man. We just
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. And some of this propaganda in the form of a historical fantasy novel, I don't think that they'll see that coming.
yeah. They'll just think it's one of them dark romances or whatever again.
Oh God, no! Oh God, no!
But
Not
just
no
kind of
no no
mark it
no
like that, and
no.
then people will pick it up and then they'll read it without knowing that that's what they're getting, and then they can have their minds blown.
Right. I can't market it as romantasy because the entire first book goes by without a single sex scene at all because we're mostly
Oh
in
damn!
in in
No, no. Well,
in.
you don't have to. Just pretend that it. Just market it. It doesn't have to be it.
No
That's
no
what I
no.
mean. Just get it in their hands and have them start reading.
Well, that's part of it. That's part of it. But so then you've already betrayed your reader before they've ever even really
I
met
know. I
you.
was
So
just
we don't want
bugging.
to do that. No, no. I do think about that though. I think about marketing, and I think that there's actually a way to do it because the three most popular subgenres in fantasy right now are all in there.
Yeah,
So
but like
that's
you just
fun.
have to. Yeah, well, you have to sort of convince them to come along. Like try to give out a little bit. You can't just full on give them a completely radical fiction and pretend that it's something you're not and expect them to actually
No,
read
no.
past the first paragraph because it'll be like too many words. This is
Right,
not
right,
pretty.
right. No,
Where's
I
the
know,
sex
I
scenes?
know.
You have to sort of cajole them into it.
Right. Well, we have uh our kick the dog moment right on the second page. So
Oh no.
yeah, you know what that is when you kick the
No.
dog.
I'm like, what is kick the dog?
When you set your protagonist up as an underdog,
Oh, okay.
essentially. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have that right off the bat, and basically, if you dig historical fiction, then you're in there, and if you don't, well, then I'm sorry.
You know what might be fun to
What?
watch one time as a reaction? It
What?
just came to me. Have you ever seen Pan's Labyrinth?
Yes. Yes, of
That's
course.
a
That's a
good.
great one.
That is a good subversive fantasy right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love that genre. It's kind of what I'm going for, where you just kind of
Yeah,
are
right. That's
going
honestly just
along
speaking like
and
that. Like
everything
that's
is
sort of like gives me the
normal.
vibes of what you're talking about.
Thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. And then you turn the corner and it's like, whoa, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I may have said this, I think it really reflects the way that life will do that to you,
Yeah.
in less supernatural ways. But so it makes it really, those supernatural elements relatable in a way that they might not be,
Yeah. I love that
So,
movie.
yeah,
See,
right?
like, yeah. See, like, I wish I could create such fucking pieces of art. There's no way, but I can appreciate it. I can appreciate it.
Well, and as the writer, as the artist, you're the kind of person also, and I have like everybody, I haven't managed to talk to a single person who is probably my like target audience. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I have my 45-year-old husband, my 17-year-old son, my 48-year-old male friend who I talk to about stuff, and like you're probably
Those
the
are vastly
closest.
different from each other.
I
That's a
know, I
different market.
know. I know, and like it's so I'm trying to tell them about this book, and like I don't, so it's hard for me to gauge like the interest of my target reader because I don't have her to talk to.
that's
Um, you're the
that's so sad.
So, you're probably the closest I've got, and it's
Oh,
just a
I can
layman's
be your
opinion.
target reader or market
Yeah.
whatever person
Yeah. Oh,
market.
and like a layman's opinion is important too. Like that's
Yeah,
always
and
nice. You
every
don't
all I
necessarily
think it all is important to get different perspective and their thoughts on something.
right. You don't necessarily want something from the perfect audience because they're gonna love it. They're gonna love it. That's the whole point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's good to get even the like different versions of perspectives and stuff, so you could kind of
Right.
read them
Right.
through and see what you want to take for as criticism, see what you want to throw away that they criticize. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'll have my teenage son read through a scene, and he'll come to me and be like, I don't know, that felt kind of claustrophobic the way it was written. I'm like, good, that was the point. He's like, oh, all right,
Excellent.
right.
Fucking funny.
He can tell me if the tone is right because he's not in it for any of the rest of it.
Yeah. It's interesting though nowadays because of just how industry, any industry in capitalism is just downhill. But the publishing industry and just like how how a lot of things that are written get published are like so unedited, so
Oh my
grammatically
god.
like bad. Just like it's not even a subjective like liking or disliking. It's literally the technical
No, I
aspect, the
know.
skill that you're not getting, and that is like not a subjective like
No, I
perspective.
know.
It's like technically wrong. You
I
cannot
was
follow
thinking,
along with this. This is not how you write an English sentence.
right, or like you just leave, you know, whole plot lines
Yeah.
unresolved and forget about them. And it's like, what
Or
is this?
retcon
A
every
sitcom from the
few
80s?
chapters, or retconning every few chapters, and it's
Right.
like yeah, almost like an oxymoronic sort of like progression that you're just contradicting yourself like from a little bit ago. Like yeah, it's bad
Hmm.
out there, man. And
It's
then
to the
I'm just
point
like, and then
where I
people praising
wonder.
it, and I'm like, man, we are so anti-intellectual at this page
It
of
is to the point where I
page of
wonder
this
sometimes,
time.
like, I could have published this bitch 2 years ago.
Yeah,
When I finished the first draft, I could have published it untouched and had it
yeah.
be as good as some of the shit that's out there right now.
Oh yeah. Oh totally. Like it's getting sad because all the publishers care about is just pumping it out, and like, and they don't really care about the quality, about making sure there's an editor, making sure that like
Yeah,
this technical skill is like polished up to
right.
form like and a correct paragraph and sentence and different yeah, it's
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
it's sad
Not
because
to say nothing of
you're
like the
praising it
larger
and it's like
concepts of
it's
the
not about your
novel.
subjective like well I like it like, but it's not about your subjective opinion about it. It's technically wrong. Like there's a
Right.
difference. Yeah,
But yeah, structurally, there are things that, it's
yeah,
like that. I think that house is pretty. That's nice. It has no foundation and it's going to slip
right,
down the hill,
exactly.
like,
Yeah, exactly.
and yeah, oh God. And I'm pre-solving the problem where, like, I guess Rebecca Yarros' second book, was it that one?
Yeah,
I don't know. You probably don't know. Anyway, one of them had to rush her sequel out because they were just, we need it now, we need it now, we need it now. And like it shows, like you're saying, it's bad.
yeah. Do you know?
We're talking like duplicated sections in the printing
Oh
and
shit,
stuff
man,
like that.
that's bad. Well, see,
Yeah,
like,
it's
why
bad.
don't they have an editor?
I don't
If
I don't
they're
know.
are they publishing themselves, or are they are being traditionally
No, see,
published?
that's the thing. Is this is a traditionally published, yeah. Like this is
So
a
that's bad.
real,
That's horrible. Like, why
yeah,
are they
it's
putting in
very
the
bad.
fucking money for an editor? This is what you were owed.
I I don't know. I don't know.
You're
I
like, I
hadn't
have
even
no
thought
fucking
about
clue.
that. I hadn't even thought about that. My thing is like I'm just not gonna have that problem because it's all gonna be finished before I publish any of it.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Oh,
usually people would do, right? But like, I can maybe
yeah.
understand if you're independently publishing, you don't have the resources to pay an editor or like a reader to like kind of go over your work, because sometimes that
No.
that's
No.
what people
That's
usually
this
do.
is like,
So
I'm
I can
sorry.
understand if independently like you get some things wrong because you don't have an editor and can't get one. But when you're traditionally published, why are that you deserve an editor of your very own, at the very
See,
least?
yeah, no, you do. It should be part of your contract, but also, like, either way, if you're independent, then you don't have big fat deadlines bleeding, breathing down your neck, and you can literally have your cousin fucking read the damn thing.
Yeah,
Like, your roommate, your brother, your mom, whoever
yeah, at
would
least
have
somewhat read
spotted
it.
whole sections duplicated. A
Yeah,
child could spot that.
yeah. I was just about to
You
say,
don't
unless you're
need.
me, because if you're me, then nobody would want to help proofread because you're so isolated and bitchy. You know?
Well, then so, or you can literally hire people on Fiverr. Okay.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You can hire people that like will do it. That will
Yeah.
do it for a good price because they're not like it's not their job. They're not at a big in like
Right.
company.
Who would catch basic shit
Yeah,
like
beta readers. I
whole
think they're called beta
repeated
readers or
sections.
something.
Right. Yeah. So the idea that like no one read that is what I'm getting at. Not an
Yeah,
editor.
right.
No one.
Yeah, I
That went to
literally.
print unread. What the fuck?
Right.
By anyone. What is that what that says to me? And I'm
Didn't
just,
you
that's
even like
so
go back and
shocking.
reread it like yourself?
Right? Yeah. Not by her, not by anyone.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, even if it was me, I'm at least someone who would like proofread my own work.
I proofread my
Because if
emails.
you
What the
didn't have
fuck?
anyone, I would do it myself. Like, why didn't you do it yourself? You couldn't have.
Yeah, no, I do. I proofread my emails. Like, what the fuck? Who?
Okay, say I
What?
don't always do that. I don't always do
No,
that.
I'm
I
a
do
nerd,
like a
though.
professional one, but when it comes to
No,
like
I'm a
personal, I'm
nerd.
like,
That's what I'm saying. But I'm also a writer.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I do.
Well, it also depends on what I'm writing with. If it's my cell phone, I usually get autocorrect. I hate that. It fucks up with
Mm-hmm.
I hate that, and I don't know how to take it off. And I'm pretty sure you can somehow, and I still haven't figured it out.
Oh, I didn't even realize you could take that off of there. I had
I
just
think you
resigned
can.
myself to it. So many of those romance books are what I call one hand written because everything that is smut is just filling in pages until they get to the next sex scene. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I
that's another thing
suppose.
too. Like I've seen like TikTokers complain about all these words; they just skim it to get to the
You
sex scenes.
guys,
I'm like, what?
which brings me to my favorite funny thing that I've discovered about those books is there. Oh my God, Rachel. Was it Rachel? No, Rachel somebody. Reads with Rachel. I don't know. She did. She went in depth.
I know that one. Reads with Rachel. Yep.
She went in depth to Rebecca Yaros's stupid Dragon
Yes, she did.
College book
Yep.
series and like had it all charted out. All the sex scenes are the same.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What the? What the? What the? And she was. I loved it. She and the girl she was talking to were like, "We know it's just dragons and dick, but that doesn't mean the dragons have to be stupid and the dick has to be bad."
Yeah. Yeah. The only problem is with Reads with Rachel is a huge, like she gets. I've seen her before. I've watched her videos before, and she gets a real sort of "I'm better than you" mentality when it comes, especially like trans issues.
Oh, I haven't
Yeah.
encountered that yet.
Oh yeah, you'll get to it. You'll get to it. She's very
I'm
liberal.
trying
Let's
to.
just say she's a very, very liberal minded, but she thinks that she's radical, kind of a thing, you know.
Oh
And so she's
yeah.
got that sort of I'm morally superior attitude when it comes to a lot of things, and she doesn't have much nuance, and she's very, very liberal, a liberal
Mm.
sort of ideology push. And it's like, oh, honey, you're so passionate about
I gotta go
liberalism.
make sure that this is the channel I'm talking about.
What?
I gotta go make sure this is the channel I'm thinking of now.
Reads with Rachel?
Oh,
Yeah. I also know
yeah,
Rachel Oates too. They're both very liberal.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think Rachel Oates is less insufferable at times than Reads with
Mm.
Rachel. Because I remember her going a deep dive into those books, and really interesting. She's got really, good insight. But then on certain issues, she's really just like,
Well, I'm really
oh.
just there for the book stuff. I'm there for the book stuff. I'm,
Yeah,
allowing
but
them to do the
sometimes books will
research that I
have
don't have time to
political
do.
annotations, right? And so when it gets into that part of her analysis, you're just like,
Maybe I didn't get that far. I listened to 2 hours of that shit a couple of weeks ago. Maybe I didn't
but
get
she
that
does that
far. I
with a
don't
lot
know.
of other books too. So it's probably another book that I'm referencing. I can't remember all the videos I've seen, but
Well, and I'm picky about my genres. I'm doing research is what I'm doing.
yeah.
I'm allowing them to help me with my market research by reading all those books, so I don't have to. Oh, oh my gosh. Also, I have this problem where like I absorb people's style.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been reading Howl's Moving Castle to my kid at night.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's good. I like it. It's fun, But so it's very YA style, very matter of fact. And then so and so did such and such, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then they went to da 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 da. You know. And I'm like, that's like not how I'm writing my novel.
Yeah,
So then
right.
when I just sat down to do writing the other day, I had
And then you're like,
to
gotta
kind of
get that, try
shake
to
it
shake
off.
that out of your head. Like, get it out.
Right, right. I had to refocus myself in the voice of in the voice of what I'm trying to do, because it has a lot of the emotion is in the descriptors, in the descriptions. Like the character
Yeah.
doesn't say, and then I was so anxious. She like behaves anxiously and describes
Yeah,
things
it's more
anxiously.
like show don't tell. Like when you
Yeah,
just like showing something rather than it's explained by their own, just talking to you as a, yeah, you know what I
right.
mean.
So it's like we're going like through her life story with her, but instead of her saying, and so on that Tuesday, little did I know it was
Yeah,
gonna be a big day.
exactly,
Like
exactly. Yeah,
there's very little of that.
yeah.
Very little like narration voiceover. So you're just kind of sunk in her perspective and like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, yeah, because obviously the different marketing one not YA, right? It's a little bit more.
right. That's the other thing, is it's not YA. And I'm trying to write the first one in a way that gives you the impression, like I don't want it to have a YA vibe.
Yeah, you don't want to have be on
Despite
so on the nose. You don't want to have to hold the reader's hand through the
right.
story.
Right. Well, and just the way the prose is written, I don't want to have a YA vibe. I want,
Yeah, yeah,
despite the fact
yeah,
that the character is a child,
yeah.
which is a little fun to try and do. Uh, and I had a lot of questions about that at first a couple of years ago, if it was YA because the character starts out as a child. I'm like, no, everyone starts out as a child.
Well, I
um,
mean, it doesn't matter. There's also YA books with adults,
that's true.
and even the what it's kind of getting blurred right now. And the reason why I think a lot of YA and then other get kind of a blurred line about what could be considered YA is because I think everything's dumbed down, really.
Well, and I think what they used to call YA is now called middle grade.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, somehow well, there's no real like distinction. I think, and I think that's like made
Okay.
it bad. Like because you also
Yeah.
got like a bunch of these like romance books that look like they are should be marketed to kids because of the
Right, with the
cartoonish
cartoon
aspect.
covers. Hmm.
Yeah, and they're really just smut.
Right. Also, let's say, sorry, Claire, she said, also those books tend to have a weird obsession with the main female main character being petite, naive, and virginal. So creepy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and again, my main character is just not based on any of those. So, it's its
Or
own, it's its own,
they try to portray a female character as being really like smart, or they have to say that she's smart, but then she doesn't make smart decisions or
right.
smart, like
Oh
nothing.
my God.
Just you saying that she's smart isn't going to convince me this girl is smart. Why is she doing this? This makes no sense and it's stupid. She looks like an
Right.
idiot.
Which is funny because I don't feel like, I don't know. I've heard a lot of complaints about Mary Sue's, right? Where everyone loves your character for no fucking reason.
Yeah. Well, not even love her character for no reason, but more as the writer or the writing is making you the girl or the female character without any flaws, so no character development, and the world then is sort of written around her and what
Right.
to make her to try to prop her up.
Which,
And
boy,
yeah.
there's a problem I don't have. Oh my God. Oh my God.
But I mean, yes, that's a Mary Sue, but I mean, there is still a male version, the Gary Stu, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's not just a female thing, but yeah, a lot of storytelling nowadays, especially like the very big industry of like stories, are really do really have an issue about creating imagination and actually writing characters with any depth or substance. It's very
Oh, hello, Sareem. We're good. How are you? Yeah. Look, because you can't actually have her fail at anything. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
understand why
true,
that is,
because what
honestly.
they're trying to do is they're trying to make the quintessential strong female woman, but they don't believe in actually what that looks like, so they don't know how to portray it.
Right.
It's so superficial. The reason why you want to portray this character is to make money, and so
Right.
you have no concept of depth, of character analysis, of like personality, because you don't care about that shit. You care about making money, and you think it's going to this sort of caricature of a person is going to make you a lot of money because you're trying to target the idealization of what you think women want. That's the issue.
And
If that
yeah,
makes sense.
yes, yeah, it's fake basically. Bunch of phonies. Um, like I'm. This is where I get like selfishly nerdily excited. I hope my book becomes successful because I would love to hear how people like take it into those memes, into that discussion. You know, like
Yeah.
what would they make of my character? You know, where do they put her? You know what I mean? Like I'd love to hear all
Yeah.
that.
How is it received by the the reader basically on a
Right?
general
Yeah,
basis? Yeah.
and it is kind of interesting because we're talking Victorian, so she's not what you might think of as your typical strong, feisty female character because she's a
Yeah.
product of her fucking time,
Yeah.
you know? So I can't just give her all this easily spottable attributes.
Besides, you don't want that. You're supposed to work up to that.
No, I know.
Right, as storytelling and character creation, you're not supposed to already come out at the swinging out the door with those characteristics that are like commendable because it comes off as false. You have to work up these things and create situations which builds that, and that's like called imagination. And a lot of people that just don't have it, so they try to just dump it on and be like, "You like this? You like this? You like this?"
Well, I mean, the other thing is she doesn't come out at the other end looking like that either because, again, environment,
But then she wouldn't be
time.
human.
No, true.
Because she did.
Right. Yeah, I know. But so it's one of those, it's a very, like I'm having to go back afterwards and go, okay, which tropes are in here? Which tropes are people going to see? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going
Yeah.
to probably project onto it, honestly? But I have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to accidentally invoke some tropes that I didn't mean to.
Yeah. And there's such a lot of tropes out there too that's kind of hard to, because some like are based
Right.
on like actual sort of psychology of people, even though it's a
Yeah,
trope
right.
as well. It's not just a trope for no reason. There's reasons why people behave the way they do, act the way they do, and who
Right.
they become as a personality, right? Not
Well,
just
it's
a
like,
trope.
okay, it's basically like what tropes have I unconsciously put in here and how have I used them? You
Yeah.
know? And
How
I
do they
want to
come
be
to be
very
even?
right. And I want to be conscious of that so that when people read the book, they get that and they go, oh, she twisted that like such and such, you know, and maybe
Yeah.
they'll think I did it on purpose, but, you know.
Yeah. It's supposed to look like it makes sense. Like a
Right.
fluidity kind of a personality that's
Hmm.
three-dimensional,
Right.
essentially.
No, and like I say, she starts off as an underdog. Hey, Belle, what's up? I hope you're well too. Um, Oh yeah, but
Hi.
she starts out with some disadvantage. It's kind of interesting because we're in an upper crust family, but the character starts out with some pretty. I mean, she's not disabled or anything,
Yeah.
but she's not exactly the belle of the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you're at the ball, that can be a problem.
Yeah. Especially when women are only good for as object.
Right, right,
That's gotta be tough.
right. So she's like introverted, plain Jane kind of person. So.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that doesn't make her mother very happy. So
Of course not. Because
no.
her status relies on her offspring.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like
See, I
I
get
could
it. I get what you're going for. I'm picking up what you're
yeah.
putting down.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. See, and I figured you would. And you might be a good person to read it and like help me draw the
Yeah.
themes from it, you know.
Yeah, I think I'd be better good at critically reviewing something or like looking at it, just not
Hmm.
writing it. Like I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be a piss
No, and
poor writer.
that's what I need. I
Yeah.
I'm going
And I
around to
am,
everyone I
unfortunately,
know.
for some people, very blunt and honest.
No, and I don't have a problem with that. Hopefully
Yeah,
by
I know
this
you
point
don't
I've
have a problem with
established
that.
that.
It's just, unfortunately for some people because
And
you
even
know
though this
me,
is
I
my
just
work
don't
of
keep my
art,
mouth shut.
Even though this is my art and it's my baby, like please slice it, make it bleed,
Well,
cut
I just know
off.
that for me, if it was me, I would like to know. I wouldn't want people to like
Yes,
tiptoe around it and not say anything,
right.
and then me looking like an ass or something about something that
Yes.
people already knew and I just didn't.
No, exactly. Because it is my baby, I want to be tough with on it, if that makes any sense.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
that
totally.
sounds weird, but yeah, absolutely. Because I want to put out the best possible thing that I can.
Mm-hmm. No, totally get it.
And well, the best thing would be if there's anything you don't understand and be like, hey, what is this about?
Yeah, what the
Because
fuck?
that is the worst thing. That is the worst thing that you want to have after it's published.
Yeah, or even
Right?
just like, why this doesn't make sense? Why would like this? Yeah,
Right, right, right. For the love of everything that is holy in this universe, those are the kind of feedback that I need.
yeah.
Oh my God. But it's not ready quite yet. Okay, I have one scene to type. I have several. I have a bunch of stuff to type, actually. And then one to retype. Because did I tell you this? Like one of my most pivotal scenes, it was in the wrong place. So
Mm.
I, I cut it out and put it in a separate file, thinking I was
Yep.
going to paste it where it went later. And then that file got erased.
Oh, that would piss me off so much.
I almost died.
I bet.
Fortunately, I am, again, a nerd and did all of the original writing by pen on paper, so I can just go
Smart.
retype it. I can just
Smart.
retype it. It's
That's
all
smart.
there. Yeah. And then I have two more scenes to write, and then that's it. And then I get to go back and do polishing on this first part. That's it.
Yeah, I would like to read it. I would read it.
Woo! It's so exciting. And like I said, maybe I'll read it on the channel. Maybe I'll put it up
Or
so
that
people
too.
can
Yeah,
listen
we can
to
have
it.
a little read along, but
Yeah, so people can listen
you
to it.
style.
You're
You can be
right.
the hot seat.
Ooh, well, that just means you won't be here at all.
No, no. But I will be in the
No, you know
comment
what?
section talking Mary.
Oh, well, so maybe I won't do that one as a live stream. Maybe I will give myself the
Yeah.
benefit of editing, in
Yeah,
case
well,
I
give
fuck up.
yourself the favorite.
That's what I was thinking. In case I fuck up or have to cough or something,
Well,
I just have it on.
that's why I'm like, oh, like when I'm reading too is when because I can see the words, but then I'll like trip up with the pronunciation because I'm going too fast
Oh,
for me to like with my reading for my mouth to keep up.
oh yeah,
And
right. Because your mind goes.
so then I'm consciously having to slow my reading down, but by focusing on that so much, like I'm not even retaining or listening to what I'm reading because I'm trying to. Yeah, so I've still got some work to do with that. Maybe I should start reading out loud just by myself so I can like get used to reading at the same time reading like without having it be sped read
It's
in my
its
mind.
own animal. It
Yeah.
is. It's like a different mode of
It
reading.
is a different mode because I'm such a proliferate reader that I'm really fast and trying to like
Mm.
make my mouth like it doesn't want to like coalesce
There's
with
no
what my
way your
mouth can
mouth is going
do.
to keep up with that. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my mouth cannot keep up with the pace, like so I need to slow that down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's not that bad though. Hopefully it's legible or readable or listenable, whatever you want to call it.
Audible.
Audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I don't sound like too ridiculous or that I'm going too fast too when I'm reading either. Like trying to
No, I
keep
was
up.
into it, especially
Okay, good,
today.
good,
I was
good.
sitting there sewing and making notes, having a good time. Hi, honey.
Yeah, so which ones are next? Hold on. Just kind of curious to see what chapters are next. See
Oh
what we're
yeah,
doing for next time.
I think we did that
Just
last
out of
time too.
curiosity, I've got it down written, all that shit, but okay, let's see. So the next one we have urban struggles, the Black Death and
Mm.
the labor crisis, which should be very interesting to get into.
Oh yeah.
Right, right. And sexual politics, the rise of the state and counter-revolution. So that one's gonna be a goodie.
Sounds
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty, the meaty stuff, the
Yeah.
meat.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. The stuff that's going to be again an analog to modern times. I'm just
Oh
sure of
yeah,
it.
right.
Not even necessarily current times, but
Well, because now that capitalism has globalized, it
yes.
needs to evolve again, and that's why you see a lot of similarities between feudalism, capitalism era, and capitalism now to globalization, or what's been talked about as being the fourth industrial revolution.
Hmm.
Right. So it needs to
Okay. Oh no.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, hey, you popped off there for a second.
I know, I saw that.
Oh my god.
Okay. As I was saying, the similarities is due to a lot of the fact that it needs to reinvent itself or else collapse in on itself because it's gotten to a whole, like, sort of, it's expanded to a point where it needs to change to fit its operandi, modus operandi kind of a thing. So a lot of the stuff that happened between feudalism to changing over to capitalism will really showcase how, because right now we're globalized, so it's got to now reinvent itself. Capitalism does, or whatever. And like I said,
Oh
some
my
people
god.
call it like the fourth industrial revolution, which is not good. And stuff like that's what they were calling it. A lot of the tech bros are calling it like that. And
Well,
so
that
it's
sounds so awesome when you say it like that.
well, that's what they call it. They like talk
I
about this,
know.
right? This is what they talk
Right,
about. Like,
yeah.
no, it's not a good thing.
No,
It's
it's
not a good.
not. No, but when you say
Not a
it
good
like
thing to
that,
be
you call it a
reinvented.
revolution. It sounds awesome. You know.
Yeah, is it revolution industrial? Yeah, I think that's what they call it. Yeah, but it's no good. It's not good.
No, 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 no,
So
no, 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 because it's a continuation of all the shit.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
another grab for powers, another taking of the commons, another um, crisis with population, which means women's bodies too have to be taken into account, and a lot of just weeding out the ones who deserve to like have the ability to survive and ones who don't. That's why you have a lot of the public sector being gutted. It's being completely gutted, and you're all going to be fucked on your own. You're going to have no insurance, no social security. You're going to have no safety nets whatsoever. They're gutting all that. They're getting rid of all that shit. So,
Yeah.
and there's going to be like techno feudalism, basically, sort of like reinvent because now that it's globalized, yeah, it's just another phase, another step, or else it collapses in on itself, and well, it doesn't want to do that because people
No.
have incentive at the top not to let it happen. So it's not going to be good. Let's just put it that way. At least that's my interpretation.
Well, thank you for filling in some of those blanks for us. I know there were a couple of connections I didn't have there yet.
So we'll get to it more in much more focused detail when we go through the book. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's just so important,
Mm.
right?
Well, here's hoping we get that far. Oh my god. I don't know. It's the kind of thing where if we have techno feudalism, they'll take away our social security, but we'll still have YouTube, right?
Yeah. Yep. You got it. Now you're
Yay!
thinking like like an industrial revolutionist.
Yay! Yay!
Fuck me.
Uh,
You're just like, oh yeah, well, leaving off on a bad note.
no, I mean, on that note, I want to go and hide in the corner for a while now.
Back and forth.
Oh God.
Try to repress that just a little bit for now, so until like
It's
my
not.
mind
It's
can
not. It's
process.
just right. It's just to calm down a little bit so I can think about it. It's not to push it away. It's just
It's a lot.
bring
I know.
bring the needle out of the red. Oh my goodness. It's just that I didn't. I don't know. It's the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Right.
Thank God.
It's spiraling the drain or whatever. Is that what you say? Is that the saying? How it goes? Circling the
Mm.
drain. That's what I mean. Circling the drain.
I don't know. I. Oh my gosh.
Um, that's
Sorry. I'm fine.
okay.
I'm just trying to think of what to say next. Um,
Well, when it comes to that, I don't know. I can show you some of my crystals I got right beside me. That will make you
oh, that sounds nice. Yeah, let's do
what I've been
crystals.
doing is I've been trying to just uh organize them like as a sort of like a list. So I have it like so I know where they're from, what kind of
Yeah.
material. So I'm trying to make a list. So I'm going to use some video on that. So I've been doing that lately. So I got my little crystals right beside me, and I'm like trying to think of something nice to say. I'm like, here, this is something sparkly.
Yeah, it sounds nice. But so, like,
Yeah,
as
here,
long as
do
the
this.
publishing industry still exists in a few years, my plans
Like, look
can
at that.
still go
Isn't
off.
oh, hold on. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah. Ooh, two
Yeah, see,
colors.
ooh, it's Look at that. That's all natural. It's Cavensite on Grey Druzy.
Nice.
It's got like little tiny crystal waves.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool? Isn't that
Yeah,
such a cool color too? Natural.
it is. Yeah.
It's not the best lighting, but here maybe if
The
I
kind of thing the kind of color you don't see very often in nature, really.
there, that's better.
It looks like a blue raspberry,
Yeah, look at this.
somebody
Look at how
stuck
it's
their
like.
gum on it or something.
Yeah, kind of.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy? There you go.
Yeah,
That's a nice thought
very
there.
nice. No, like I say, as long as the publishing industry doesn't entirely collapse, as long as people are still reading books.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
That's up for debate, but I mean, if that disappears,
Yeah, but
It'll take a while.
yeah, I just need another 5 years maybe to get this all finished up. And I don't want it
Yeah.
to take that long, but I have so many other things to do.
Well, it'll be fine in
Often,
5 years, but like, give it like 20. I don't know, man.
yeah.
People might not be able to read.
Oh my God.
It's
I don't know.
already
You and
iffy when
I
it
will
comes
still be around in 20
to the
years.
new generation, like of like internet babies, right? Have been born.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm raising one of them. He reads pretty well.
Same with mine, but that doesn't mean it's the norm. Mean.
No, but at least we're doing our part. Which, what
Yeah,
more can you
we're
expect
doing
of
our part. There'll be
somebody?
some. There'll be some. We can
Yeah.
maybe teach others. I don't know.
Right, yeah, and let's see, I don't know. I know that you have a very dim, cynical view of like humanity, and I don't necessarily share
I
that.
do. I do.
I I,
I
I
try
don't
not to.
necessarily.
Okay.
I know, but so I don't mean to come on here and be like, but the truth will out
No,
and
it's a good
knowledge will.
balance. We need the balancing. My cynicism plays out to your, hope.
Yeah, but so I want to say that I mean, and this has been true so far. I will point out that every time they have suppressed it, it's come back. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, I know that is true. Nothing is set in stone yet until it happens. So whether or not what I think might happen, that's still conjecture. So
Yeah.
That's as hopeful as I can give you.
What Claire says, often I feel embarrassed by how this shit going on affected my depression. It's never been so bad, but I feel silly being so sensitive. But at the same time, there is so much to be sad about. Yeah, no, I don't
That's
think
so
that.
true. No, it's so depressing out there that sometimes I'm just like, oh, like it's
Yeah,
hard. It's hard to think about. That's what caused this is what's caused me to be cynical. Is like kind
right.
of
And
putting myself out there and then just seeing things fall apart is so depressing.
yeah,
Like it's so like such a kick to your you know to everything, to any sort of foundational sort of thing you're trying to do. It's just it knocks you down sometimes, and it's just like how bad it is out there, how sad, and just how
well, and based on what you were just saying, it for all intents and purposes appears as if you're living through a colossal cultural backslide, which is fucking
yeah,
depressing as all hell.
right,
And it's
right.
existential. It's so massive.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like you
exactly.
can't even
It's like
really put
going
your
through an
finger on it.
existential crisis, really.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like. Yeah,
Yeah, on a cultural, societal scale. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I hope you're not too embarrassed about that, Claire, because I think
I think a lot
but
of people feel that.
you're perceiving something that's real.
Right, you're having a really normal reaction to the reality of a situation, which
Hey, at least we have the words to describe it.
yeah.
You know, I think I don't know. For all we know, they probably did have words for these things and like a lexicon of some kind of mental toolbox to deal with their feelings and like
Oh, I
psychological
think so. I
concepts and
think so.
whatever.
And we'll get to those kind of different movements throughout the Middle Ages era where it seems like they knew exactly what was going on and they were exactly able to sort of phrase it right for their
Okay.
time, right?
Right. So maybe they didn't have the word depression, but they had something
But they had sort
like
of like,
some.
yeah, an understanding, right? And
Right.
one of the issues too when it comes to history is like spoils go to the master of whoever, the ruler or whatever, so you don't have a lot of
Right.
that history, but there is history there. There is a
Right.
real community and peasant history that really fought back and came together and had community and did things on their own and just didn't lay down and take it.
Wow, seeing my boyfriend go full incel, leading us to break up,
Oh,
confirmed all the stuff Rad found literature has been saying about men. I want to believe that men can be good, but it's saddening so many aren't. Yeah.
yeah. No, I know. I was really floored. I was super floored when trans ideology became so prominent because I've been at this since 2011. right?
Mhm.
Because I already had an analysis, and then just seeing like everybody just getting swept up, and seeing that like it was like no issue the misogyny that was going on, like that was so just like prevalent in people's understandings and the worldview, and just they were able to just throw women under. I was so shocked to see how misogynistic people were that they
The
really
world
internalized
still
it.
is.
Yeah, it still is. Like
Yeah.
I really shocked me when I like because I didn't realize how much hatred there was for women. Like
Oh, and now
the
I get to be cynical because I wasn't shocked at all.
I was shocked.
I've been
I was
going
shocked that
around
it got
calling
to such a
out.
level. Like I knew
I've
it
been
existed. I just didn't realize it was
oh
such a pervasive level that it was like in
no
everybody's mind that they were.
no.
Yeah, I didn't realize how
As a
much.
storyteller, I was not shocked by that at all. That was my personal journey to come out of like my own gender problems, was understanding where I had got those ideas from. Because
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't come
I
no
knew
no
that,
no.
but it's the
But
whole trans ideology that really, because I was like with people that were radicals. I had made a community, and then when this trans ideology sort of gotten sort of talked about and sort of inserted, people just went along with it, and they were so misogynistic to a point where like, how can you believe that woman's bodily material reality is inconsequential? Like, I don't understand. You're like, I just don't comprehend how you don't see it. Like, and
right.
you've internalized it all to a point now that I'm excommunicated from going out and like participating in any sort of like movement with you because I simply think that women's bodies exist.
You're right. Oh my god.
Like, what the fuck is going on here, right? And it was like what really shook me out to like really seeing it was when I went to that book fair with that woman who then was chased down by these trans activists who wanted to like kick her ass, and I had to put a stop to that. I had to put my body in the way and be like, whoa, 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 and try to get there out safely. I didn't realize it would come to that.
Yeah.
This was all the way back in 2011. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Wow.
That really kind of shook me. I was like, what the like wow, I didn't realize how much hatred people just have for women, even women themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's the other thing is I had already come around to the realization that like the sexual revolution was not for us, and like all those liberal
Yeah,
spaces I grew up in were like sexist, predatory hunting grounds. Like
right. Yeah,
I had already like in my 20s come around to that unfortunate realization that hippies are not your friends either.
right.
And
Yeah, yeah,
so again, like I wish I could say that I was shocked. I do,
yeah. I was,
and I
but I was like so involved in, like I said, the anti-imperial, anti-war movement. I didn't realize that my status was so low amongst even my peers
uh,
because of myself being a woman. Because there's no way that you would not at least give me the courtesy of like not to ostracize anything because of like simply acknowledge like giving an opinion.
yeah,
Like,
and
oh, so you think that low of me and as my status because if you didn't, you would at least hear what I have to say,
right. No, men are allowed to have unpopular opinions. They're just called
right?
crackpots,
Yeah.
but they're still allowed to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We have a couple of comments. Claire says, I was being open about previous violence I've gone through and that many women I know have gone through. And he said, women just need to pick better men.
Yeah, women just need to not pick men. If that's the
Right.
case, just
Yeah,
don't pick
because
men.
because the man's behavior is the woman's fault somehow,
Of
right?
course.
That's fucking ridiculous. And April
And they
says,
know it's ridiculous. It's just an excuse. They know it's ridiculous. They know it.
well, because it's so obvious. Because, like I just said, oh, okay, so she's responsible for his behavior? What?
Yeah.
What?
Well, if she was fucking shut up and knew her place, then there wouldn't be such like there wouldn't be any tension.
Right. And
That's the thinking process behind that.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
It's if we would just stop triggering their guilty conscience, everything would be okay.
Exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah. April says they will never blame men or hold other men accountable, and pick-me's always work against women in any way they can.
Yep.
See, I have seen some men hold other men accountable, and I don't want to stand up here and be like, not all men. However, when it happens, we should acknowledge that it happens if
It
we
just
ever want
doesn't
it to
happen
happen
very
again.
often.
No, I know, but I'm just saying we shouldn't pretend it never happens if we want it to happen more often.
Yeah. It's just that it's hard to find. That's the problem. That's what shocked me too, is that it was so hard to find. Like there were
Yeah, and
so
I
men
don't know.
out there that did not at least be like, what the fuck? They were just happy to go along with it,
Yeah,
not say anything,
yeah,
just
and
like
uh,
even men that
I
agreed. I even men that agreed, because there were men that or guys that I knew that agreed and wouldn't fucking say anything out in the open. Yeah, it's like because your status is a woman, so who cares? So even if I agree that your bodily autonomy, like you have bodily functions that is real and material, I'm not going to say anything because you're just a woman. Who cares if you
well,
agree to
because
anything?
we
But
can't
that's the
participate in the
mentality. And it's like,
pissing,
really?
right?
So you're dishonest with yourself. You have no integrity. And I'm the one that has a degraded status. Fuck off.
Right? Yeah. No, but it's the pissing contest. It goes back to that pissing contest. We can't participate in the pissing contest.
Well, why would you? Because it's just for women.
No, because if you, okay, I'm kind of making a joke, a dick
Oh,
joke. Okay, like imagine a literal pissing contest. We lose automatically, right? If that's what you're worried about,
yeah. Okay. I see. I see. I see. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, then yeah, we don't enter into that equation. And but that betrays that that's what they're worried about, right?
Yeah. 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 I get what you're going for now. Did it connect?
It's I'm doing that intuitive thing again.
Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, I guess
So,
women don't enter into a dick measuring contest. But if that's all it
no,
is, I mean,
but
I just
I mean,
oh
women do and are taught to, I believe,
right,
to have them with each other, just not
yeah,
literally.
no, right. I know we're using it as a metaphor again. I just thought that was funny because
Yeah,
it's
I
an
know. I know.
interesting choice of metaphor, isn't it? Yeah.
Just interesting.
Right.
But
Because
I actually have to go now. It's
okay,
getting later for
yeah,
me, and I'm tired.
okay,
Guys. But it was great having a discussion. I love these discussions afterwards too, where we actually still talk
yes.
and converse
I
and
just
go
want to
off,
read
and
Claire's
sometimes a different
comments. She
direction than we started. But that's the name of the game. Like
yeah,
it's good to have community, good to talk, good to feel
yes.
connected with a bunch of other things too as well. So I'm
And
super happy
thank
that we're
you
doing this
again.
still, and I can't
I
wait
just
for the next time.
I just want to read Claire's comments really quick, okay?
Sure.
It hurt because he seemed like a genuinely good guy and had rad fun mother, yet the typical misogynistic victim blaming and Madonna whore complex. He was sweet when he saw me as an innocent Madonna figure, but as soon as his friends complained about my openness with my opinions, it put me in the whore category. Men are so weird. Yeah, that guy sounds like he
Men are
might just have
dicks, literally.
yeah. That sounds like that might be like some ego problems just anyway. Um,
Yeah, men usually do have ego problems though, so
yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
you said you needed to go, and I just wanted to read her comments really quick because she
No,
took the
I'm
time to
glad you
share.
did. I
So,
didn't see that. So
anyways, bye, Claire and April and anybody else
yeah,
who is
bye
here. We
everyone.
will be
We'll see
back
you
in
again.
2 weeks. Two
Yep,
weeks from today for the
2 weeks.
next installment at
Yep.
noon Eastern time, 9
Yeah, that's as
Pacific
early
time.
as I go.
Yeah, 9 Pacific time, noon Eastern, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Have a good one, honey. His ego was huge. It was probably half of his weight. Oh, that's funny. And I'm so sorry that you had to experience that. And now I have to go. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for hanging out. And bye. Yeah, always great to have you around. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.